Welcome to Hack Shack Studios. How is everyone? RT Bear here. 35, 36, whatever. I lost count. Years in this wacky comic industry that we know and love. Working mainly at Marvel, DC. Did a little bit of time over at Image Comics in the day. Had some fun. Yeah, I have nothing to talk about. And yet I turned on the camera and here I am. So I'm going to rely on you guys a lot. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. So maybe we can talk about that. Found some stuff. My wife found some stuff. My wife found some stuff. We're kind of packing. We're kind of thinking about moving. So certain things we're kind of going through and packing, throwing stuff away that we haven't used in a while. So basically taking inventory on things. And my wife found some cool stuff. So maybe I'll share that with you guys. But yeah, just feel free in the chat. So this is going to be very interactive here because I don't really have anything to talk about. Shadowhawk says, "Hail RT Bear. Wah! At work, we'll listen on a commute home at 3:30 or so. Much love to you and Pamela and Amanda. Can't wait for all my Chrono Mechanics goodies." Speaking of Chrono Mechanics goodies, Shadowhawk, Pamela is putting stuff together. So this is how much she cares, you guys. She's got the stretch goal. Like there's the cards. This is the five stretch goal cards, and then there's the patch. You know what? I thought I had them here, but the buttons and the guitar picks are in another bag. I thought I had them here, but I have the guitar picks. So those will be in another bag. So she carefully puts everything in there because she doesn't want anything to get destroyed. So she kind of keeps everything separate. So she's been putting, look at all this. Look at the care. And all this. So she's putting all of these in bags for you guys. Hold on, I dropped a bunch. There we go. So yeah, we're making sure they're packed good, that they all are taken care of, and batches and batches of Black and White volume Uno have been going out. So she's getting at least 20 books out a day. So there's probably 100, 150 books that have gone out already. So you guys keep an eye out for your Black and White volume 1s. They are shipping at this point. Anything that has a poster in it will not be shipped yet because we're waiting to get the posters back. So the posters have, they are at the printer and they're being taken care of. So this was the big culprit that was holding back the Black and White campaign from being shipped. So now we have the Black and White card here. So Black and White orders are going out. Like I said, the ones, well, obviously the drawing, I still have to make all the drawings, and then the posters are going to, I think we're supposed to get the posters probably next week, I believe. So what else do we have? We have the 10 chrono cards that come with the tiers that we're waiting to get back from the printer. And we have the poster. I think that's it. And so here's some of the cards we got back. So here's the pre-launch. So if you sign up for the pre-launch, you'll get this card. Here's the back. Wait, it goes this way. So this is Zach Bradley did the wonderful artwork for this. So we got that. And then these are the chrono. These are the stretch goal cards, you guys, the ones that are in the plastic. So this is Zen by Aaron Lopresti. You got the big Aaron Lopresti on the back. These cards, man, I didn't really know what I was doing because I never really designed a card before, but I designed these card layouts, and I think they came out really good. So it says Superstar, what does it say? Superstar Cover Collection. So these are the 4 different artists that did the variants. So that's Carlo, And then we have Oot by Sean Cheeks Galloway. I think they came out great. There's yeah, I think they're neat. And I'm glad that I thought of giving the guys big credits in the back. So we're shipping these out to the artists. So it should be fun to see what all the guys think of their trading cards. And this is the pre-launch. So if you signed up for the pre-launch for the Chrono, this is the card that you'll get. And then I like playing with the formats on the back. So some of them I go horizontal, some of them I go vertical. And then this is the stretch goal card as well. It's got the caution on the back or across the top and bottom. And then we have the back retro fit. All right. So enough showing off. Well, I'm going to show off some more stuff later, but let me see what you guys are talking about. So yeah, things are moving. They're shaking. We got all kinds of stuff coming in. Like I said, the posters and the rest of the trading cards. We have thousands. What was I thinking? Okay, so we have how many with the Chrono? We have 10 cards, 10, 15, 16. I got to write this down. We got 16 cards. 16 cards with that. So I believe the Chrono site has the Chrono campaign has 16 cards. What did I say? 10, and then there's 5 for the stretch goals, and then there's 1 which is the pre-launch the pre-launch card. So that's 16 cards. And so the black and white one has the pre-launch, and then it has the one that comes with all the tiers. So then that is 2 more. So 16, 17, 18. I thought there were 19 cards. I'm forgetting one somewhere. So I think there's 19 cards total, but I can't remember what that 19th card is. So we're making 1,000 of each one of those cards. So there's 19,000 trading cards downstairs waiting to go out for you guys. So if you backed Black and White, thank you so very much. Those books are going out as we speak. Pamela's actually at the post office right now. So we just had to order a bunch of Gemini mailers. That's the other thing I was trying to remember that we're getting. So we're getting like 1,700 of the Gemini mailers. They come in huge boxes, man. So we're getting a bunch of those. They're a little expensive, but we haven't had any problem with shipping the books in the mailers. So we're going to stick with, using what works, because the biggest thing is to make sure that they ship in good quality and they're not damaged. Because the post office does everything in their power to make sure that they damage your project or your products. Hello, Art. Hey, what's up? Leg Kick One. Aaron, howdy. We got the Squish Show. Squish. Got my copy of Black and White in the mail. Hell yeah, man. Cool. And you guys, when you get the copies, take pictures of them and put them up on my social media. Send them to me or tag me, and I'll show them off, and we'll show people that didn't back what fun they're missing out on. We have the Smiling Bandito. What's up, my friend? Hell, and we'll meet. Oh, we will. Oh, we will. Albino, nothing. Are you sure about? If you want to come in, man, I'll send you a link. For some reason, I didn't want to bug anybody. I'll send you a link just in case you want to come in and bug the chat. So let me hit this button here, because there is some stuff. There is some stuff happening. I never know how much I really want to get into stuff. It's just not in my nature really to stir the pot, as they say, as to I don't know, create problems, even though I wouldn't be. I didn't start it. What is the I sent the link, my friend. You have the link now. So if you want to pop in, Joe, feel free. Let me go back to the chat. Yeah, there's Albino says nothing are sure about. There's the Tom King thing. I guess we could talk about. Although I'm not sure that guy really deserves any more breath or energy. I think everybody knows what he is. Go to SDCC and talk about panels. Todd McFarlane's documentary, Graveyard Shift. Graveyard Shift is doing really, really well, you guys. Go back that book. Our buddy John Malin and Mark Poulton are doing really, really well. So Todd's True says, hail Art. Late Kick, hello Art. Hello chat. I borrow ideas, but only the good ones. What's up? We have Riot Press. Hey, Patrick, what's up? There's lots to talk about. Patrick, do you want to come in and talk? I'll send you a link as well. I shouldn't have done that. Don't do that. Click the button right next to it. All right, so I'm going to click this button and send this off to Patrick and see if he wants to come in here. Like I said, I don't have anything planned. This is all winging it. Winger. All right, so I sent Patrick a link, and Joe's got a link. If you guys want to come in, feel free. If not, no biggie. Oh, he says, yeah, come on in. Well, come on in, man. We can talk about some stuff. There is some stuff happening. Let me see. What's next, Art? Wow, you guys are on fire here. I knew we had stuff to talk about. I thought you guys were Bancroft's posse. I like Michael. I don't know if I'm his posse, but I do like to hang out with him a lot. I guess I'm his posse. So view of Uranus. Where is that woman's organs? The woman's organs. I don't know. I don't know what woman you're talking about. We've adopted Art. Oh, okay. So that's the Michael Bancroft show. Yeah. I'm one of the group. I'm one of the gang. I missed last Friday. I actually kind of enjoyed staying low key Friday. So Friday's usually the big pontificators night. And then what I was doing after pontificators, especially if I was drinking, I would go over to Michael Bancroft's show and stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning talking nonsense. All right, let's see what Squishy. I love Black and White. Finished reading it. Super good. Oh, good. I have to say, though, I think I'm 4 times as excited for Chrono Mechanics. Chrono Mechanics is going to be a blast. And Black and White isn't self-contained. There's going to be volume 2. So volume 2 is going to come out. And with volume 2 will be the conclusion of the story. Chrono Mechanics is self-contained. So it is 60 pages of story. So I would like to tell more Chrono stories, but that book is self-contained. So it might read a little bit, as just a single comic book, it might read a little bit better, just because you're going to get an end. With the first Chrono, it definitely leaves on a cliffhanger. It's a good story, but it's not a complete story. So it leaves on a cliffhanger. And I've been over the weekend. Well, it wasn't, I think it was Thursday or Friday. I had a long creative conversation with my co-writer on Black and White Volume 2. And we came up with some really cool twists, you guys. The story is really coming together. And I'm working on the cover right now. I think maybe on one of the streams I showed you the layout. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to show you what's on my drawing board, but I can't show you the whole thing. So I'm going to... oh my gosh. This is, I don't know if you can see this. This is one of the potential layouts for Black and White 2, Volume 2. So the light reflects, so I have to kind of angle it. So this is one of the potential layouts that I've been working up. And then I have this one. This one should be easier to see. These are really loose, you guys. These probably won't be the finished layouts. So there's another idea. So I have a couple ideas. And I have something on my drawing board. I want to show you because I was really happy with the inks. The camera's probably not going to be cool, but I got to cover up part of the drawing because I can't give it away yet. It's kind of top secret, but the part that I'm going to show you is fine. I don't think there's going to be a problem with it. But you know what? You never know. Everybody has got something to complain about these days. So let me, I'm taping flaps up so you can't see the whole board. So let's put this here. And so I was really happy with the ink work on this. Let's see if wait a minute. This flap is moving. That means that you're going to see something you shouldn't. All right. So I think this is good. This is good. So let me see if I can get this in here. It's kind of off to the side here. But I don't know if you can really see all the brush work there. So like there's all kinds of textures and stuff on the skull. So let me get in a little closer so you can see. Let me get over here. There we go. So there's part of the mouth. So this is for another Comicsgate project. So this is work in progress. I should have it done in an hour or so. We got Patrick. Patrick, what's up, my friend?
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. So did you see my skull rendering?
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I liked the teeth kind of laying in the ground.
Yeah, it's a pool of blood.
Oh, okay, gotcha. What is that for?
Well, I can't say yet.
Okay.
Yeah, it's top secret.
Are you drawing and inking it or inking it?
Yeah, I'm drawing and inking it. Yeah,
okay.
So yeah, it's all penciled up now, and I just have to finish parts of the face, and I think that's there's some more background, there's some more cave stuff that I have to finish, but other than that, it's pretty much done. But I just wanted to show it off. There's sometimes there's things that you do and you're just so proud of it, you want to show it off.
Yeah. And sometimes when you shouldn't be, and you do it anyway.
Yeah, you do it anyway, and that's probably what I just did right now. But
well, I mean, I think you showed enough to not really show any story. You just showed a cool image.
Yeah, and it's just a background image. It's just part of the background there. So how you been, my friend? I'm catching up in the chat here.
Just doing well. Just fulfilling. I got my boxes behind me and just about to make a run to the post office, and I'm going to be done with all domestic shipping today.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So besides the people that ordered the covers and some paintings, I'm sending those out tomorrow. But like, these boxes behind me are the last of just the domestic Johnny Phantasm packages. So I'm very excited about that. What's up there, Lord Crack?
Yeah. So you have the second one coming out soon, right?
Well, it's technically it's going to be the third campaign. Because we had an earlier campaign where these 3 books were in a graphic novel. We broke it down into 3 books and reprinted that with Alterna and did the newsprint. And now we're going to kind of stick to that newsprint format because like we kind of just like how it feels. Also, like web press printing has come a long way in the past like decade or so. It looks really good. It doesn't come off on your fingers or anything like that.
Yeah.
So technically, this is our third campaign coming up.
Okay. Is it a new story or is it reprinting?
Oh yeah, it's a brand new story. Johnny Phantasm, 1985.
Is this the one you were showing off? I saw one that you were showing off with Johnny as a kid.
Oh yeah. Well, he's having a dream as like a little flashback scene where he's like a little kid, but he's dreaming himself as the Phantasm, with the skull and
Right.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
So
pretty
it's like,
awesome.
yeah.
And then he wakes up in the car, right?
Yeah, then he wakes up in his DeLorean and he realizes that it's like the viewer realizes that they're halfway through a heist and he kind of just dozed off.
Was he the car man, as they say? Is he the driver?
Well, no, he's like kind of like the boss guy, just supervising.
Oh, okay, from a distance.
Yeah. Well, that's what's interesting. In Johnny Phantasm in 1977, he's kind of like a hitman turning into a Bob Moss. In this, like he's already kind of like the Bob Moss of New Detroit, so he's kind of like well established. And in this story, now he's going against like big state, like the government type of deal. He's dealing with a lot of lawyers and politicians.
Right. I was gonna be a smartass and say, "What do you know about 1977? You weren't even around."
I was in the womb.
Oh, so you were born in 77?
I was born in 78.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was what would I be? I would be a senior in high school.
Mm-hmm. Well, I sent you 3 copies so you can read it and tell me how you feel about my version of 1977.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'll open it. I'll do an.
Well, it was a time that fascinated me because like I didn't really know my dad too well. He died when I was very young. But he grew up in New Jersey in the 60s and the 70s. He was also a Vietnam vet, but he was a bit of a gangster, like in New Jersey. I found this out later on in life. So this is kind of like a little bit of like a love letter to him as well, because I'm kind of envisioning him a little bit as I draw Johnny.
That's cool. Yeah. So, did you ever find out what your dad was involved in? Was it just racketeering?
Well, my aunt would tell me stories that he would like go around to like the different bodegas and like collect like security money. This one time he was going on a date. I think it was with my mom, and my aunt was with him, and he stopped off at a convenience store to rob it real quick. He like
needed that date money, man. Your mom wasn't cheap.
It was like an ATM machine. He just told his sister, he was like, "Just sit tight. I'm gonna be right back." And he walked in and walked out with like the cat, like the drawer.
Did your mom know at the time?
No, I actually I never even told her that story. Like my aunt told me that story.
Oh, okay.
Like my mom and he were only together for a short time, so she didn't really even know him that well. But yeah, I'm finding all these stories about him, and it's just kind of funny because I try to channel all that with some of that early Johnny Phantasm stuff in the 70s. So that's my tie to that.
Yeah, it's funny. my dad, like your dad and your mom always like seem squeaky clean when you're a kid.
Mm.
And then I had my brother-in-law worked at the shipyard with my dad for a while. And so he come back, he goes, your dad isn't what you think he is. And I was older. I was already in high school. I was an older guy. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, your dad's like a big pot smoker. Like you smoke with all those sailors and stuff like that, those Navy guys, on the docks there. I'm like, holy shit.
So you said you graduated high school in 75?
In 79. Yeah.
79. How was that? Like what was the song of that year for you? Can you remember?
Sadly, it was that probably one of those Journey songs, one of those romantic Journey songs. I liked Journey just enough to hang out with the girls that liked Journey, but I was never that guy. I always thought they were kind of obnoxious.
But so I mean, like I love Journey, but I wasn't really around when Journey was jamming a whole lot. But like, were they very popular? Was that like everyone liked Journey?
Oh, it was huge. Like I'm trying to think when you said that it was probably the prom song, and I can't remember what here in the something dun 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 dun. Oh, Open Arms. It was probably that Open Arms song. Yeah. Here I stand with open arms. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What about Aerosmith?
Oh, I dug Aerosmith, man. Those first couple albums were badass. And when I played in cover bands, we always did Train Kept a Rolling, and we did Walk This Way, and then we did Lord of Your Thighs. Yeah,
that's awesome. I'm actually pretty good friends with Steven Tyler's daughter, Mia Tyler.
Really?
That's cool. I met her at an art show a couple years ago, and she's a big wrestling fan, and so am I. We hit it off. And we've been like super tight. I haven't seen her in a minute, but it's interesting talking to her on the phone and like her dad just being in the background. Like they're like making dinner together, and like Steven Tyler is just hanging out in the background.
He's just a guy. He's just her dad.
Yeah. It's just her dad.
Yeah, I remember a comedian was talking about like, could you imagine like if your parents. Your dad was like Mo from the Three Stooges. Yeah. Like, you're coming home with your friends and it's like, you see, your dad barbecuing out in the back and it's Mo from the Three Stooges.
Or if your dad's like The Rock or something.
Yeah.
It's like your dad's The Rock. Like, oh yeah.
Yeah, he's just dad.
The Rock.
Yeah.
So you used to jam in a metal band, correct?
I played in like hard rock bands, and then I eventually played in a metal band. Yeah, and the metal thing was a little weird for me because they like to play dress up, and I wasn't like a big dress up guy. So I didn't. I fit in as far as music, but just my look. So I still had my like they were going to the bigger kits, like the big double bass kits, the big show off kits and stuff. And I still had my my 5-piece Vistalite Ludwig set, which is the same one that John Bonham played, the one that the transparent orange.
Okay.
That's the same kind of kit I had, and so I love that kit, and I wasn't going to trade up just to show off and just to impress people, with the big double bass kit. And so, they even bought me, check this out, Patrick. They bought me clothes. They bought me spandex pants, like red hot spandex pants. And I was like, I'm not going to wear these. And I never did, man.
What year was that about?
This is probably early 80s. So this is when the hair metal thing. So I'm an LA guy. So we were playing the Sunset Strip and things like that. So, it was probably around, like Poison. One of my friends' bands opened for Poison. So it was around that time.
Okay.
But we didn't play pop hair metal music. I mean, we were more like Metallica, more melodic, kind of Scorpions type of music. So hard metal, but not like I guess kind of maybe more like Judas Priest too. I'm trying to think of the bands at the time.
What about Testament?
I think they came after.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so we were still kind of Judas Priest. I think Iron Maiden was probably the band du jour as far as hard or heavy rock.
I would think that's probably my favorite metal band of all time. I mean, I like a lot of obscure black metal and like Norwegian metal and also death metal, but Iron Maiden is like my all-time favorite. It's perfection.
Yeah, when they came out, I mean, they changed the landscape because metal and harder rock was kind of dying,
Mm-hmm.
and it was going kind of new wave pop. And
Uh-huh.
when they came out, they had that kind of punk energy, even though they like to distance themselves from punk, but they had that punk kind of energy and spirit when they first came out. Like the first album I got as an import, it wasn't even like domestic.
Mm-hmm.
So the old records shops used to have like import section.
Mm-hmm.
You could go over there, and so that's where I got my first Iron Maiden. I think it was an EP. It wasn't even a full album. It was like remember, I don't know, you're a younger guy. They had EPs. They were like,
yeah.
Somewhere between an album size and a single.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you bring up like punk rock and Iron Maiden. There's some bands like No Effects and another band called Lagwagon, which are also from Southern California. Very pop punk, but they like adopted a lot of like Iron Maiden stuff into their punk music, like playing super fast punk rock music with like technical parts. But those are two great bands.
Yeah, I like that stuff. Hey Joe, what's up, man?
I just finished fixing a dresser for the kids, and you sent the link, so I jumped in.
So apparently we do have a lot to talk about. We're reminiscing. I could talk about music all day, and Patrick's a hard rock fan.
We should have a music night, Art, where we just like play each other's bands, because like I was seriously like I've been in bands since I was 16 up until recently. Like I took a hiatus to do comic books, but I have so many so much music to talk about. Like if we just want to have like a stream where we just talk about music, I could totally do that, and we can get Dan Frag in here too.
Yeah, let's do that. That'd be awesome. Yeah. What did you play? What?
Professionally, like I played bass.
Okay.
That song that is in my new trailer. Have you heard? Have you seen the new trailer?
Yeah.
That's actually one of my bands.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Like we did like it was like a punk rock thing, but it was like punk rock mixed in with like J rock. But yeah, it'd be fun to have a night where we just play each other's music, because I love to hear that.
I'm always looking for new music. So my daughter's into the same music that you're into, but every once in a while she'll find something like Sabaton. She'll like, Dad, you'll love this band. Like she'll find these kind of like it's a contemporary band, but they're kind of more from a forgotten kind of like time, like hard rock time. And so I love those guys, and so she likes Ghost. They're Norwegian, but they're not quite they have roots. I guess some of those guys have roots in like the death metal and stuff like that. But they're more like Blue Oyster Cult, I think, like as far as their tone and stuff like that.
Have you listened to Coheed and Cambria?
I like those guys.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like Rush, but like on acid.
Yeah, it's very fusion. I wish the guy could vary up his voice a little bit more. It gets a little much. It's like that. What are those kids that are doing the Zeppelin thing?
Yeah.
Remember that band's name? Do you know who we're talking about, Joe? You're usually the go-to guy.
No, I love the music conversations, man.
What's that?
Steel Panther.
I know of them. I can't rattle off any of their songs, but yeah, I think they're great.
Do you know who they are?
Oh hell yeah! My daughter's old enough. They play L.A. all the time.
Yeah.
And Patrick, I'll just tell you, I have a mutual friend, the guitar player. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he played with the Atomic Punks, and do you know who they are?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a Van Halen cover band, and they used to play all around town.
Yeah,
I used to see those guys all the time.
Costa Mesa.
And those guys are the Steel Panther guys. So the
Okay.
Atomic Punks, those guys are the Steel Panther guys. And
Interesting. That's
also
interesting.
they play in a band called Moving Pictures. They also play in a Rush cover band. Yeah, so those guys are all over the place. I mean, they're probably Steel Panther full time now because they're very popular. But at the time, I remember I saw a double bill of Atomic Punks. I saw Moving Pictures, and I saw Cheap Chicks. So it was like a cover band for Cheap Trick, but they were all chicks. They actually sucked. They were pretty horrible.
I love the LA music scene. Like right out of high school, my band went out there and we recorded in the same studio where like Offspring recorded. But we got to play like the Troubadour like when we were out there, which was super good for us. And we got to record in like this amazing studio where these huge bands like recorded like Bad Religion
Cool.
and like Rancid. And like that's what I did like right out of high school. Like right out of high school, I was in a punk band like immediately. And from the ages like 16, 17, 18, 19, all I did was just travel around the United States and play music.
That's awesome. Yeah,
And then when,
was that obnoxious band that I was talking about. They're like Zeppelin, but that guy sings in a high register all the time, and it just gets kind of annoying.
Who is it?
Greta Van Fleet or Van Fleet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know too much about them.
Yeah, they're like a Zeppelin. They're three young guys, and they kind of do a pseudo Zeppelin thing. And I think like Rolling Stone and the rock community heralds them as some kind of the second coming. But I don't find them that interesting, to be honest. Yeah.
Right on. Yeah. Well, we should definitely have a music chat.
Oh, I have to ask you. So when you were out here, did you play the Orange County clubs? And what clubs are still out there? Is Radio City and what was the other one? It was called the Woodstock.
Well, this was 97. The last time I was out there playing shows.
Okay.
So like, it was a while ago. But I mean, like we played in Costa Mesa and Orange County, places all over the place. Like I said, like we played the Troubadour in LA. We played places in Simi Valley.
The Troubadour is probably the best as far as layout club.
Oh yeah, like that bar, like the bar right in front of that stage. It's so
right,
perfect.
and then there's that little balcony and everything.
And then there's that room that's in the very front. That's like a bar, and you can watch the show on the screen.
Right. Yeah, it's probably the best layout. The whiskey's weird because it's like called corner, and it's really kind of awkward.
Yeah.
But did you? Oh. Actually, I'm dating myself. There was Madame Wong's, and then there was Gazzari's. Do you remember Gazzari's on the Strip?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, we used to. If you're local LA, you're like, I'm Phil Gazzari, and I'm the godfather of rock. Like he'd do his own commercials, and he was like some kind of mobster, and so he wore a fedora and stuff. He was like a really colorful character, and he'd smoke a cigar. He's like, I'm Phil Gazzari of Gazzari's. And we got the best rockers on our stage.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I know. I wish like we stayed out there for like a month. Like instead of graduating high school, I decided not to walk, and I went and recorded in LA, and we were there for like a month. That's cool. And yeah, I mean it was really great for an 18-year-old. Like I learned so much about like life. I mean, like we got a hotel right on the Sunset Strip, so it's like we were surrounded by like hookers and just like people just shooting up, and it was just like we were just like these Florida, New Jersey kids out in LA, just getting like this lesson in life.
I was 16. We were playing the Roxy, and I'm jamming, and then we did like a meet and greet after. And when I walked over, there were these two chicks, and they were macking out. And I'd never seen anything like that in my life. I used to have to get, because I was so young, I used to have to get my parents to sign waivers to play these clubs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so they never did. I just forged their signature. They had no idea what I was doing. But I feel the same way, Patrick. I feel like I had like a little, like my life was pretty consolidated, like my neighborhood. And then when I started playing music, it really is kind of poor white kids' way out. You know, like inner city kids play basketball, or they box or whatever. I think like poor white kids would like play rock music, to get out of their neighborhoods and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just fun to do something, and it's like, it's like if you're not into sports, it's like it's something else to do.
Yeah.
I mean, and let's be honest, it's a great way to meet gals.
Oh, hell yeah. We were like the kings of our little neighborhood. There were two other bands. There was a band called Foreplay that actually kind of made it big, and they came out of Norwalk. And then there was a band called Dante Fox, who later became Great White, that band from the 80s, 90s. And God, who else came out of that mix? There was a lot of kids. Randy Rhodes, Ozzy's first guitar player.
Yeah, he's such a great guitar player.
Yeah, he was a local guy, and he taught over at Downey Music Center. He was a guitar teacher. And then Carlos Cavazzo, guitar player for this band called Snow, and we used to open for them all the time. And what was their? They had this song called "Crack the Whip," and the singer was like out of control. And he goes, what was the lyric? It's like, God knows I need you, and the way you crack the whip. And then he go, crack the whip, yeah. And anyways, like Carlos ended up becoming the lead guitar player for Quiet Riot. So, and he was the guitar player that I played with in Nocturnal Night. Was a protege of Carlos. So that's how we always got those gigs opening for them, in the day. And we used to play Knott's Berry Farm is a local amusement park. And we used to play there in the Cloud9 and stuff like that. Yeah.
There was a time when you had, Patrick, you were talking about meeting girls. I remember in the 80s, even into the early 90s, music was so big and certain groups and performers were so iconic. I remember making mixtapes and handing them out to girls and just meeting chicks like that.
Yeah.
We were all so into the music scene.
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely like before the internet, like this band that I was playing in high school and stuff like that. Like we were the first local band within like a 30 or 40 mile radius that actually splurged and bought CDs. So we were like the first band to actually get CDs. Like everyone else was still doing 7 inches or tapes.
So were you handing them out or selling them at the show, or both?
Well, we were selling them at like CD warehouses and stuff like that. Like we were selling them in shops. Like we just went to every shop and we just would talk to the owner and be like, hey, can you try selling these? And they were fucking selling out like crazy.
Yeah.
And this is when I was a junior in high school. And I remember when I went back to school that senior year, it was like bizarre world because everyone treated me completely different. It was like everyone was wearing like the band on my shirt, but I had no idea who they were. It was very strange.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I remember we were at this club and I was at the door, and this guy comes up and he's on the football team, and not that he was a bully or anything, but he was like the popular guy at the high school, right? He comes up. I still remember his girlfriend, Roxanne Eden, right? That's the perfect girl to like lust after, right?
Yeah.
And so he's got her, and like that controlling thing that guys do when they're around other guys that they're kind of threatened by. They kind of make sure that they keep the lady real close, and they get them kind of in that stranglehold, And so he's like, hey man, can you get us in the club? I know it's sold out. And I'm like, I don't know. And then he's like, oh, come on, man, we drove all the way down here, blah, blah, blah. And I go, well, I don't know, man. Maybe I can check with the guy at the door. And so he's like, yeah, do that. And so I just looked over at Roxanne, and I just like smiled at her and like, I'll do it, but I'll do it for you. I gave her that kind of look. And so then I went over, and then I didn't look at him. I looked right at her, and I said, yeah, you can come in. Yeah, we'll get you in. And then he's all like, yeah, thank you so much. And I never broke eye contact from her. And I was just like, yeah, you're welcome. And I was looking right at her.
That's funny.
And like I said, not that he ever did anything bad to me, but it was like one of those things like, oh, the most popular guy at school is like now, it has to be nice to you to get into the club. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was good times, man. The hardest thing after, Patrick, I don't know if you had this, but okay. After the bands, right? Once you figure out like
real life.
Yeah, once real life sets in, and then you're like, you realize I don't really have any game, because being in the band actually helped out. Like it was the shorthand way of meeting people. So then I actually had to work on, a personality.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I got lots of tattoos, so it constantly looks like I'm in a band now,
Yeah.
So it got my foot in the door, at least with my wife it did.
Yeah. I wish I could have got like a steady girlfriend out of that, and then I could have transitioned out. At least I got a girl out of the band thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was considered romantic back in the day to make a mixtape for your girlfriend.
Oh yeah, there was an art form to it.
Uh-huh.
It's like you're telling a story.
Yeah, exactly. I used to put way too much time and effort into making mixtapes for my girlfriends.
Yeah, you make like a happy one, or you make like a fuck you one.
Yeah, and a lot of times it just went over their heads.
You're trying to second guess, like, what is she into?
Yeah.
It's like, she's like busy into this. Yeah,
she's too busy making out with the other guy to notice.
Yeah.
I'm over here being young and dumb with my dual tape deck, and then thinking I'm saying all this profound stuff, and then she plays it and she's like, oh yeah, I listened to it, it was cool.
Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna go grab a beverage real quick. I'm gonna be right back.
All right. Yeah, the next thing is when you're an artist, and then you're like, oh, I'm gonna impress her with a drawing of her.
Oh yeah, I tried that too.
That never goes over well either.
The best I ever did with that, because I was really into art when I was a teenager, and that could sound wrong, chat. I didn't know Art T Bear back then. I was really into creating artwork when I was a teenager. I'll put it that way.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah. So I drew this this sketch. This chick was really into fantasy books and stuff, and so I drew this sketch of a wizard with his like staff, and a dragon was curled around him, and all this, and put all this time and effort into it. And so I give it to her, and she looks at it, and she's like, "Oh yeah, that's really good."
Patrick, we're talking about like the other mistake, like stupid guys like that have some kind of skill, like musicians or artists or writers. You write either poetry or you draw pictures for the girl to try to impress her, when you're young.
Yeah.
And, did you ever have any success with that?
Yeah, I think I did have some mild success with it. I remember in particular, there was these two girls I was infatuated with, like when I was a sophomore, but they were seniors, so they were older than me,
Right.
And it's funny when you're a senior. Well, like when you're a sophomore looking at a senior, it's like in your mind it looks like she's like 30.
Yeah.
She's like she's a woman. She can like vote. But I remember I used to draw comic book art of these girls, and I actually eventually won one of them over through the process. So it was worth it.
Yeah, there was this one girl was kind of like the Joe's girls, like reaction. We had gone out a couple times, and she was kind of a groupie of this other band, and I was kind of like, what I did after, and maybe you did the same thing, Patrick. I didn't kind of like leave the music scene altogether, but I had friends that were still in bands. So then I would work as a drum tech for my friends, so I would set up and I do sound checks for them and stuff like that. So I was still meeting girls, you know. And so she was obviously into the guitar player of that band, but he didn't, wouldn't even give her the time of day. So I think what I was to try to create jealousy for that guy. And I didn't see it at the time. So I was like trying to woo her in every way I could. And we went out quite a bit, I spent money on that girl, and I never got anything in return. I know it's sexist, but it was horrible, man. And so then it was her birthday. It wasn't just out of the blue. It was either Christmas or her birthday. So I drew a picture of her. So I got she was a model, so it was easy to get images. So I got a picture of her, and I drew it up, and it was awesome. I wish I still had this drawing because it rocked. It was really well done. And so I gave it to her, and it was the same. It was the same as Joe's girl. It was just like, oh,
wah,
wah. And I was like, oh, you biatch. And so I got that reaction early on that evening. So as we were walking around, she had those F Me pumps on, the big heels, and it actually broke off. And so then she's like, "Oh, can I lean on you?" Or I forget where we were. We were someplace where she could get a new pair of shoes. She was working me to get a new pair of shoes, like I was going to buy her a new pair of shoes. And then I said, "I tell you what," I said, "we could either break the other heel off, and then you could be level, or you could just walk barefoot." Because I was like, "That's it, nothing's going to come of this." And so after that, it got a little tenuous situation, and the ride home was pretty much silent. And so that was the last I ever saw of that girl. She didn't even go to those that band shows anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Get her away.
She got pretty discouraged.
So it's interesting that you what was the headline of your Nothing to Talk About?
Oh yeah, it was just another way of saying like we'll just hang out and talk. But it was also kind of sarcastic. I think Joe knows me enough to know that there is some stuff going on, which is I saw somebody else in the chat. Here it is. Hey, thank you so much. I do appreciate that. And you guys, just a heads up, the black and white books are shipping now. So if you could take pictures of them, put them up on your social media and tag me. I would love to see it, and I'll post it around. So I'm glad you liked it and that the book got there safely. So there's obviously the Tom King thing. And so if you guys want to talk a little bit about Tom King, I don't know if he's really worthy of any of our breath, but we could
I like the whole Tom King is against Asians campaign. I think that's pretty funny. Just because of his beef with Dean Cain and Jay Lee, apparently,
Is that the hashtag? It's right. It's like Tom King hates Asians.
So I think that's kind of interesting because I think that kind of like throws some of that BS back into their face,
Yeah. So let me just back up a little bit, but keep talking.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, like the Tom King thing. I'm curious of what's going to happen. I'm curious if DC is going to make him take down his Twitter or something because like people are really going after him because of this. Like even normies are going after him because of this.
Yeah. So this was the other day. Tom King posted today. DC put out an alternate cover to Rorschach by Jay Lee, who has done covers for Comicsgate, a hate group, which by the way is not true and has not been proven. He's a CIA guy or whatever, FBI guy. He should know,
Yeah, he knows a hate group when he sees one.
Yeah, he should anyway. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe that's why he's not working there anymore.
No, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I reached out to them to express my deep disappointment. Okay, disappointment. As far as I'm concerned, this is the cover to Rorschach 1. They always say like two things. Like this is the code for cancel culture, you guys. When you see this in tweets, always be weary. Reached out and disappointed. Those are always the two catchphrases for cancel culture. Because they don't sound threatening, but what these are threats. Yeah, so he's saying he's not going to acknowledge Jay Lee's cover. He's only going to acknowledge this cover. And so then he got a ton of backlash on his thread here.
Yeah.
And, go ahead.
No. I'm just agreeing with you. I'm just saying, yeah.
and then he doubled down a couple, was it a day later? I'm not really getting the dates right, but he doubled down and he said, talk to Jay and everything's fine.
Yeah. Like Jay didn't know that it was a hate group, you know? And then it's interesting because then Jay Lee's coming back and he's saying like, no, like I didn't say any of that. I said I don't want anything to do with any of this bullshit.
Yeah, and then Jay said, I'm not good with any of this. Okay, so here's the tweet. I spoke with Jay, which is complete fabrication from what Jay says.
Yeah.
He's not on Twitter, so that's a safe bet. Like he's not on Twitter, so he's never going to see this, so he can't call me out as a liar. Didn't know Comicsgate existed and doesn't support hate of any kind.
Yeah.
We're all good. Best possible outcome. So this is him trying to save face.
Yeah.
From the earlier tweet, and then Jay comes out and just says this is a complete and utter fabrication. And hey Joe, do you have the insight on what Jay's tweet was? Because I don't have it here.
What was the Instagram post?
Yeah, it was an Instagram post.
Oh, it was Instagram. Oh, okay.
So, yeah, the places on Twitter where it's shown up is people screenshotting the Instagram post and then posting it to Twitter.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't have it. I'll see if I can find it real quick.
But it pretty much said that Jay was shocked at this, wasn't really cool with it, and wasn't cool with what Tom did. And then he brought up that it was kind of a special day for him and his lady. They were in San Diego, and they just had to put down their pooch, their dog. And so they were just kind of going to reminisce about their dog and have a good time in San Diego at the beach. And then Jay said it was interrupted by just inundated with, hey, have you heard what Tom King is saying? You know, blah, blah, blah. And so then, Jay was, had to at that point, get involved. And so then Jay put out, you said it was on Instagram?
Yeah,
I've got it. I'm sharing my screen.
Okay. Let me come back then.
Our buddy Aaron Sparrow copied it over.
Okay.
So I got so this right here is Jay's post, taken from Jay's post to Instagram. I'll read it for those in the chat who are not watching or only listening. It says, 2 weeks ago, June and I took Loki, that's Jay's dog, to San Diego to see a specialist. He did not survive due to complications from the surgery. This past Friday was supposed to be a day of mourning. We were back in San Diego to pick up his ashes. We were going to take him to the beach and comfort each other by sharing our favorite stories about our little boy. Instead, a part of the internet I avoid like the plague came barging in. I had companies I'm working for calling me, friends reaching out to me. I'm seeing hate pouring out of strangers' mouths, accusing me of things I have no knowledge of. I'm seeing firsthand how fast lies are spreading. Let me be clear, I'm not part of any group. We never made it to the beach. We spent the entire 6-hour drive back home on an emotional roller coaster. I'm writing this because I'm angry. These irresponsible tweets are not harmless. They do not just go away. They have real-world consequences. They can take away your job, your life, your memories. June and I were robbed of a special day. So no, we're not, quote, all good, unquote. This isn't the start of a conversation. This is the end. So please don't drag me into a world I never wanted to be a part of, nor will I ever want to be a part of. I want to honor Loki by going back to producing art made with love for people who enjoy it for what it is, something that hopefully brings joy into their lives. Mommy and Daddy miss you so very much, Loki, our love.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, he just wanted to be left alone. Believe it or not, you guys, not everybody's into cancel culture. Not everybody's an SJW, and there are people that just want to do a job. They just want to do good art, and they want to be left alone. And I think there's a lot of people like myself that wanted the same, but that realized more and more that it just wasn't going to happen. And so I wasn't canceled. I actively pursued Comicsgate because I felt like it was the right thing to do. And I saw the writing on the wall. Oh my gosh, I had no idea that it was going to get as out of control as it eventually did.
Hey, Art, can you go back to Twitter for 1 second and go to Tom King's Twitter page? He blocked me, so I can't see it.
I know exactly where you're going with this stuff here.
Well, is this the very top of Tom King's page?
Well, this, no, I can go to the top of Tom King's page, and I can come back if that's what you want.
Yeah, there was. Okay, so right there, the Erica Schultz girl. See her at the bottom?
Yeah.
She is one of those girls that's in that Whisper network.
Okay.
It's just interesting that she also she worked for Dynamite as well, and she was one of the women that was threatening to leave Dynamite if they didn't get rid of the Cecil cover.
Okay, so there is a connection with Tom King and the Whisper Network and cancel culture.
Yes, and this gal, she also teaches at the Joe Kubert School, right? Which is funny because the Joe Kubert School took out 3 ads in my comic book, which is a CG comic book. And it's just interesting because she's threatening to leave Dynamite because of Dynamite's association with CG, but she's working for a school that is getting advertisement in a CG comic book.
Yeah, which is perfectly fine and perfectly normal. But
except for that she's nuts, you know?
No. I mean to run the ad in your book and
of course.
Do stuff like that. But then what they're going to do is they're going to turn that into something evil and probably eventually put pressure on the school to to probably try to blacklist you somehow.
Well, I mean, it's just funny because she threatened to quit Dynamite. Is she going to threaten to quit the school too? Are these idiots just going to threaten to quit all their jobs if no one gives them their bottle? You know,
right?
It's like that's 2 jobs in theory that this Erica Schultz girl is going to throw away because she doesn't like Trump. Basically, is what it is. I mean, you can call it Comicsgate, but it's these people doesn't like Trump, and somehow this has something to do with it.
I'll tell you, in the day, Patrick, I was so scared all the time that I wouldn't have another job. I can honestly say I never, ever quit a job from Marvel or DC or any place else. I was either let go of or it just the book was canceled. Mm-hmm. I never, ever quit a job because I never felt I had a choice, right? I never felt like I was in a place where I could thumb my nose at employment. Mm-hmm. So I always did the job, even if I had a differences of opinion or I knew that the person that I was working with hated my guts. I still did the best job I could, and I was professional about it. Mm-hmm. These people have absolutely no idea what line or where that line should be. They cross it each and every time. This mm-hmm. is not professional at all. Mm-hmm. Because what they arrogantly think is that somehow no one's going to come for them, right? If they're constantly on the right side of history, then nobody's going to come gunning for them. I tell you, Erica, and I tell you, Tom King, right now that's the case. But if you have what you want, like we project the future, and you get what you want, eventually this culture that you created, they will come gunning for you, and mm-hmm. they will be merciless. And they will be relentless, and they will destroy you. How can you even condone this kind of behavior? This is absolutely insane because right now they can ride high. Mm-hmm. But when the mob comes for them, what are they going to do at that point? And then I wanted to show this, which I thought was very, very special. And if you ever thought Tom King was a good guy, if you ever thought that Tom King was a good guy, he has a pooch. So he's like, good afternoon. Here's a picture of my dog that's alive, right? And then to add insult to injury, he says this. He says, walking the dog, right? I don't know. Based on what I know about this guy and how petty he can be, I would not put it past him that those were little FUs to Jay Lee.
Yeah.
Like, what a vindictive asshole.
Yeah. I mean, he's shaping up to be a real piece of crap.
Right? If you even wanted to support the guy after those dog, like, dude, you have to know this is in bad taste, even though you had a good, let's just say, like, he's on the up and up, let's just say. And he just showed some, like, oh, I had a great time with the dog today, I'm going to post this up. You had to have known that this is going to look bad on your Twitter page, right? Like, this guy just, was talking about losing his dog, how you took that special day away from him. And then you're just like, well, guess what? I had a special day, Jay.
Yeah.
Look at me and my dog.
Well,
and with King's CIA work, he was an intelligence analyst overseas. And from what I understand with the CIA, they don't send you overseas and put you in country to do intelligence work unless you've proven that you know what you're doing when it comes to communication, analyzing it, interpreting it, and responding to it in the ways that the CIA likes. So if we look at Tom King's behavior, he either has to be the world's most unaware former CIA operative, or he knows exactly what he's doing with all of this passive aggressive posting pictures of his dog and all of that.
A lot of this stuff that has happened recently, I feel like, has been very strategic. And I like that, like the timeline that I bring it back to is not that far ago, but it's back to that night where Miss Fury was closing out and CG helped push Miss Fury past the 80,000 mark and beyond. Nick then super chatted Ethan with a $100 super chat with Shane Davis in the room.
Yep.
Shane Davis, and Tom King talked about working on a project together. In theory, like, they're both at DC right now, Siri just turned on. She's listening.
Watch out. Tom King might have.
Yeah, maybe that's Tom King listening. So he super chats this out. People do a screenshot of this $100 super chat with, like, Shane in the picture and everything, and everyone starts making a big deal about it, right?
Right.
Then Nick comes over and he doubles down, and he's like, you know what? Well, Dynamite's gonna put up the Cecil cover, And I thought at that time, I was like, cool. I was like, this dude's gonna stick up for us. And then comes the backpedaling of the Cecil cover, and then in a retaliation, the CG community unites, and we push cash grab past $200,000, beating a lot of evils.
With the new variant,
variant, yes. And then we have the success of John Malin's book.
Yep.
They had to do something. This is not like this just didn't accidentally happen. Like, the fact that Renfremis has turned it up a notch. They smell blood in the water, like with the Cecil thing. But none of this is, like, accidentally happening. And the fact that this guy that used to work in this CIA, like, people are calling, oh, he's such a moron. I called him a moron too, but for different reasons. But it's like people that are assuming that he's just like this dumb, like, idiot. It's like, this is very strategic what is happening right now. It's like they're coming for CG. They're telling other creators, you better not work with these people or we're going to harass you just as much. Now, it's awesome that Jay Lee kind of bounced back and I appreciate his answer. It's not pro CG, it's not anti CG. It's just like it's about making art and making comic books, and not being a part of any group. So now it's going to be interesting what's going to happen with the Tom Kane hates Asians hashtag. I know a lot of people have been tagging DC Comics and Warner Brothers and AT&T to some of that stuff. I'm curious if anything is going to happen with that. There's some other things happening that I'm not sure like that we're supposed to talk about yet, but there's some other interesting things that are happening now too.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy. It's like I think a lot of this is just strategic attacks.
But did you see? I rarely get into on Twitter. I rarely get into anything other than promoting projects, promoting creators, and posting cool art. Occasionally, I'll interact with people in a conversation, but I don't do Twitter beefs. I just don't get involved. But this thing with him, first he went after Dean Cain.
Yeah.
Japanese American. Then he goes after Jay Lee, Korean American. And he's also gone after Shane Davis's wife, Yanzi Lin, who's Singaporean Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was standing up for herself, to use the leftist terminology, he quote unquote depersoned her by claiming that she wasn't who she says she was. She wasn't real. She wasn't actually an Asian woman. And so this morning, I'd had enough. And when I saw that there was some conversation about it, and EVS had said something about it being something about what is it with the SJWs this month? There's a pattern of them going after Asians, and he had listed Peter Samedi as well, because unfortunately Pete is getting attacked again. Usually, when extremists are going after Pete, it's kind of at a low level, constant sort of thing. But this last month, it's flared up again, and so Ethan had mentioned, Pete, who is an Asian, and then Dean Cain, and now Jay Lee. And so I just, like I said, I usually don't get involved in this stuff, but I'd had too much of seeing this stuff, and so I said, "Oh, and by the way, he just tried to deperson Yanzi Lin." And said, "Here's the deal." And there was a live stream. It was either yesterday or the day before. I can't remember who was hosting it, but this topic was being discussed. And I said, if something happens once, it's an incident. If it happens twice, it's a coincidence. If it happens 3 times, it's a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not usually one to jump into conspiracy theories. I think a lot of times they're fun just to look at and look into. And sometimes it turns out there's something there. A lot of times there's just not enough evidence to make a decision one way or another. And then sometimes they turn out to be correct. And I think that this whole Tom King hates Asians thing is interesting, that some people decided to use the far left Twitter nonsense against them and just do their own little trick, but use actual substantive evidence that we've all seen.
Mm-hmm.
You look at it and you're like, okay, so here's now 4 Asians that they've gone after publicly, and I'm not one to jump out and say that Tom King actually hates Asians, but if you look at the entire group in total, the Whisper Network people, their supporters, and all of that, I come back to either they're colossally ignorant as to what their actions and their words look and sound like to everybody else, or there's something coordinated going on.
Yeah, yeah, Tom King goes after many non-Asians, so theory denied. Not necessarily, but I think what they're trying to do, and this is why it's a little dangerous to do, like to fight fire with fire. It's a little dangerous because then they can go, well, two wrongs don't make a right. But if this is all you have to work with, you know, if we're dealing with cancel culture, then sometimes it's all that you're left with. So if he's going to point fingers, and he, you know, this is Tom King, and he's going to do what he's going to do, sometimes you have to try to beat them at their own game, which is, I think, what some people are trying to do. I'm not necessarily down with some of the fight fire with fire, but I do see the point, and I do see it as like when you have nothing else. Sometimes that's what you're left with, you know. But it becomes a real he said, she said kind of argument, and those things are a little harder to prove. What I would like to see eventually is one, I want to see more pressure come down on the Wade case. I'd like to see that moved forward. I would like to see your boy Zach actually come down and say to his lawyer, enough's enough. This is costing us way too much money. Let's get on with the case. Let's get on with business. Because from what I understand, what's really holding it up is just where's the whole hearing going to be, in Texas or in California? Trying to get it moved to California. Well, enough's enough. You know what I mean? Like I understand the move that they're trying to make, and actually Zach's lawyer needs to start dictating some terms, as far as I'm concerned, because this is costing both parties money. Wade doesn't seem to care, because if he can wait it out, then he wins. But if Zach can't, then he loses. You know what I mean? So at this point, it's not even a right or wrong. It's just about to see who's going to fold first in the financial warfare. So at this point, it's economic, it's financial. It's not even about right and wrong. It's not even about getting to a court case. And so that has to change. And also, I think, and if there are any lawyers out there that listen to Comicsgate or that can help, I think we need some legal representation, because what a lot of the SJWs, the Whisper networks are doing, and they're not even shy about it. These people are using their own names. They're saying stuff. The Renfamous thing about the Peregrine and the colorist, she's attaching her name on that tweet. And she basically...
I think she's being paid by someone else to do stuff like that. I don't think that she's doing that on her own.
Whatever it is, like if she's making money on it, then she's a whore. Yeah. Because the thing is, you can't do stuff like it. You're still bad. You're still breaking the law, whether you're on a payroll or not. The thing about it is that nothing's going to change until the law, because what they're doing is breaking laws. There are laws that are being broken. There's defamation. You can't make these claims. You can't start calling a group that isn't really even an official group a hate group. You're labeling a bunch of people based on a Wikipedia, page, and all this nonsense that's going on. There's absolutely no proof. Nothing's been proven. Nothing is substantial. But they have the louder voice, and they're getting the word out. And like you said, Patrick, they're organized. They're organized, and there may even be payola involved in it. So if that's the case, then conspiracy, non-conspiracy, I think there's proof here. There's enough proof here that if we could get somebody involved, legally, because the thing is, these things cost money. That's why it hasn't been pursued yet, because this stuff costs money, and they know it, and they know that the burden of proof is on CG. It's not on them. They can say whatever the fuck they want. They can make whatever outlandish claims they want, but they know that the burden of proof is on us, and they know the only way it's going to significantly change is if we lawyer up. if we get a lawyer, because that's
Lawyer up.
lawyer up. Because the thing is, they have social media. They have control of social media. Like, how the hell are we going to do anything about that?
You're on this super big roll right now, but I have to go.
Okay.
I have to run to the post office before they close and send out all these packages.
Yeah, well, consumers first, man. Your fan base first. So
it's good chat with you guys, and thanks for letting me come on to talk about this.
Hey, no problem, man. Take care.
Hey, rock on, Patrick.
Yeah. So I mean, how do you feel, Joe? I mean, you're probably more well versed in the legal system than I am.
Well, I've definitely had cause in the past to study different aspects of the legal system, and I had mentioned in the chat that when it comes to extremist nonsense, whether it's from the left or from the right, the last several years we've been in comics, it's been mostly from the extreme left,
right?
So I when it's name calling and Twitter beefs and stuff like that, I ignore it. I don't get involved. It's not productive for my business, and
right.
So it's not worth it for me to be involved. Unfortunately, I've had to put business plans on hold for a while now due to dealing with a family health crisis and then COVID, and I've had some time to stay current with a lot of the different Twitter discussions that have been going on for a little while now. And so I think, as I stated in the chat, that when they cross the line from nonsense to malicious and purposeful criminal activity, like intentionally threatening a person's livelihood, intentionally threatening their reputation, which is exactly, in my opinion, is exactly what happened with Jay Lee and exactly what happened with your boy Zach. It's exactly what happened with Ethan Van Sciver. It's exactly what has happened with Chuck Dixon. I mean, they
took money out of my pocket with Green Hornet Black and White.
They threatened your, I mean, and it's to the point now where they're cascade attacks, meaning it's pre-planned, it's coordinated in such a way that you have one attack, and then as the opponent, which is non-extreme leftists, all of us, in other words,
right,
we're dealing with one attack, they drop another one. And then as we're trying to deal with those two, they drop another one. And so sometimes it takes a long period of time to coordinate that stuff. And as a amateur historian, I've studied history for about 30 years. And when you study history long enough and you study different cultures long enough, you notice that there are certain tactics when it comes to cultural warfare that come up again and again, regardless of geography or time period, because they're effective. And one of the things that the far left is doing, if anybody wants to get kind of what's the phrase? Kind of a primer or a Cliff Notes version of what far left extremism is all about, you can look up something called Rules for Radicals. I'll put it here in the chat real quick so you get the spelling of the guy's name correct if you want to look it up. So Rules for
Radicals. While you're doing that, I have to ask, Stefani Renee, we've worked with each other, right? I think it was recently. I see your name coming up quite a bit, and I'm horrible with names. I'm better with faces. My wife is better with names, and I'm good with faces, so we're the perfect combination. So let me know in the chat if we worked with each other, and what that was, because if you're the person I'm thinking, you're brilliant, man. You hooked me up big time, man. So let me know if we've worked with each other, because I think we have. Anyways, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if Stefani Hane, if you guys haven't checked him out, look up his artwork. I follow him on Twitter, and the guy has legit skill. Very cool stuff. So what we were talking about is with the rules for radicals. It's essentially a handbook for far left extremism, and one of the when we look at the Jay Lee situation and the stuff that's happened to Pete Samedi and Alterna, whether it's the swatting that happened to him or it's the constant disparagement of his company online by the same group. You've got Yanzi Lin, as I mentioned earlier, Shane Davis's wife. She's an Asian American woman, a business owner, a comic artist. And one of the things that I mentioned in my reply to Ethan is that you've got this pattern of attacks. Dean Cain, Pete Samedi, Jay Lee, Yanzi Lin. Now, there's a lot of moving parts in there, but I just focused on Shane and Yanzi's case as one specific one, as to illustrate this idea of cascade attacks where they'll do one after another after another after another. Now, let's look at what we talked about a moment ago with livelihood and reputation being threatened. So if Tom King, with his 110,000 Twitter followers, and who knows, I don't know how many followers he has on Facebook or Instagram, but he tells his 110,000 followers on Twitter that Yanzi Lin is not a real person. Okay, so to use their term, depersoning her. So if anybody reads her timeline, she's obviously intelligent, articulate. She's a business owner. She's a comic book artist. She also happens, with her husband, Shane Davis, who's a highly skilled comic artist, to have this project that's coming out soon on Indiegogo. They have their pre-launch page. They've been doing some promotion for it. And if they want to really try to hurt Shane or Yanzi, then they would go after his work, right? Or her work. So don't be surprised if they've already started trying to affect their livelihood in terms of their Indiegogo campaign. But also don't be surprised if we find out that her business, her toy business, also comes under attack. So it's one of those things where I would just encourage people, if they're not doing it already, try to keep sort of a mental timeline or a checklist, if you will, of different people that you're seeing in the comic book world that are being attacked, and look at the timing of things. Because often, if you do, you can connect the dots and see that all of this stuff has a pattern to it, or it at least came out in the same general time frame, which only substantiates what we know of the Whisper networks, how they're working together, and how you can have one like Women in Comics, which was revealed through Bleeding Fool,
right?
443 members, and it doesn't mean that all 443 of them were pulling the kind of shenanigans that Gail Simone has been proven to do, or Mags Visaggio, or just run down the list. But there's a substantial number of them who do that stuff, and we've got proof of it. We've got track records of them doing this. And then you have people like Tom King, where when they're doing stuff out publicly that coincides with what known Whisper Group members are doing, you can start to see how these Whisper networks will work together. They'll have liaisons, if you will.
Right. Yeah, they're talking within each one of these groups and stuff like that. But the thing is, like I think if there was going to be a lawsuit, that would be like an interesting conspiracy aside that would definitely come out, and then that would become fact or fiction. But definitely what there is that is tangible and provable is that they are getting in the way of people's livelihood. They are getting in the way, like even like somebody like Dynamite, which I really wish, could have happened. Like if I could have my way in a perfect world, I don't blame anybody for making the decisions they made. Everybody at the end of the day, are going to make their own decisions, what they think are right for them. And then they're going to pay the price for these decisions, right or wrong. So making decisions come with their own consequences is what I'm trying to say, I guess. But if somebody threatened my business the way that they did the Dynamite thing, or even the way that they seem to have threatened Jay Lee, because he hints that people came after them or came after him. So if that indeed is fact, then they're trying to get him canceled, which equates get him fired. So get him fired from work or not being able to get future work. Well, I'm sorry, fuck that. You know what I mean? This is how we make a living. We each have blood, sweat, and tears into creating these entities. Like my career, Jay's career, Nick Barucci's Dynamite. Like, how dare these fucking self-centered assholes go after these guys and try to get them canceled? And we have to try to remember, no matter what happens, they're the ones that are drawing first blood. The SJWs, the extreme left, they're the ones that are drawing the first blood. They're the ones that are creating the attacks. Comicsgate and others, they're just reacting to the fact. That's all. They're not declaring first strike. Even something like that, Tom King hates Asians. Well, where do you think that's coming from? It's a rebuttal to Tom King doing what he did. It's not like it was just volunteered, like, oh, well, we're just going to make this thing up and we're going to do it. And we're going to try to discredit Tom King. That's not what's happening here. What's happening here is Tom King has tried to discredit somebody for associating with Comicsgate. And so you're damn right. People are going to start defending themselves. I wish we could do it in a more legal way, because that's the only thing that's really going to stop these guys. Because unless we can get control, Comicsgate or the more sane group of people in this industry and in the world in general can get more of a voice that can outshine the other voice. Because that's why the fight fire with fire thing is really, really hard, because it's an unlevel playing field right now. They have every advantage because almost all their social media outlets and all of the news sites, all these things are controlled by those people. That Whisper Network article, Joe, that we were talking about on Pontificators, yeah, and that Chris Brawley was nice enough to come on and share with us and share with the world on his site. This proves it. This is starting to prove that's what they are doing. These are orchestrated attacks. Comicsgate has always, at least the Comicsgate I'm part of, I know there's different factions, there's different people that it means different things, but for me, that's what it's a rebuttal to what is happening. It's not a first strike attack. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like we're making up the narrative. We're just reacting to what is being done. And it's not going to change until, one, we have a bigger social network presence, and two, have some kind of legal consultation where we can send cease and desist letters to these people and say, if you don't curb these accusations, and unless you have actually hard facts to back these up, then we're going to ask you to stop. And if they don't, then we'll have to push it further. But that takes money. And but that is, I think, eventually what's going to happen, because when you go after third parties like Jay Lee, he has no skin in the game. Mm-hmm. All the guy wanted to do was do some kick-ass artwork for a friend. They had it. He and EVS had a history on Cyberfrog. It fit organically. They worked it out. Jay got paid. He put out 2 killer covers. That's fucking it.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no more to to anything. I worked with fucking complete a-holes that I could not have disagreed with more in my lifetime. And you know what? I didn't say anything. I shut my mouth. I did the best job I could. I tried to keep the relationship civil, and I got paid. And then when I could, I got the hell out. I never blasted them. I never said anything. I never did any of that crap, because ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm not going to agree with everybody, and everybody's not going to agree with me. That's fine. Agree to disagree. That's okay. It used to be understood. But now, with the cancel culture, they feel that they can go the next step, and they can vindictively get you canceled. Vindictively. You guys, these are acts of hate and vindictiveness, jealousy, all these things. And with Nick, I'm sorry, Nick. I feel your pain. I really do. I really, really do. But Comicsgate are not the enemy here. We're not. It's the people that went after your licensors. Let's try to keep the narrative straight. Yep. I'm going to keep saying this till I'm blue in the face, because all this external stuff keeps happening, keeps coming up. It's not about that, man. They tried to cancel you. Mm-hmm. They tried to take money out of your mouth, out of your pocket, and they tried to permanently destroy you with these licensors. They drew first blood. They are the bad guys. How on God's green earth does the narrative get shifted, and then somehow Comicsgate's the villain? Oh, Cecil stood up for himself and put out a variant cover. Oh, he's the bad guy now. How the fuck does that? He lost tens of thousands of dollars, in that deal when it shut down. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I see it as a resourceful guy that got shut down and that had resources and had a great network and people that support, like we have in the chat right now, to actually back his play and support his book. You know what I mean? Like, that's putting money where your mouth is. And it's a killer cover too. I don't say just throw money, just because you like, that person's politics, but it's a killer cover. It's a fun campaign. And you can say, yeah, it's rude and crude. And if you don't like rude and crude, then don't look at the campaign. Don't support Cecil, and don't buy the book. It's as simple as that. You don't have to get the guy doxxed or canceled or any of that other shit. You just don't like his form of entertainment. But guess what? Obviously, there are thousands of people that do, and they back the book. And you know what? They'll be thoroughly entertained. Not everything in the world is for you, Tom Kings of the world. Not everything in the world is for you, Whisper Networks. Some of these things are created for other people, and other people have a right to be entertained by a variant Jay Lee cover. Who the fuck are you to say that they don't have a right to see this, or that DC somehow should be the arbiters and they should come in and they should say that they're never going to work with Jay Lee again? Is that what you fucking want? Is that your end game? Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm kind of going on a tirade here, but this stuff is crazy. This is absolutely bonkers. I can't believe that these things are happening, and Jay Lee does not deserve this. And also, don't put this on DC. Don't make DC have to decide. Who the fuck are you, Tom King, to force DC to make a decision who they do not work with? That's bullshit. That's bullshit, dude. This is the beginning of the end. You get what you want. You get what you want. We have anarchy. We have shit. We have a shit existence. We once had, a world of rules and regulations, a law, a legal system, that was the envy of most nations, most of the world. And now, I think we're getting our Gemini mailers. I hear a big truck with a loading, one of those electronic loading things. Yeah. But anyway, I should slow down here because I am going on a rant. Smiling Bandito says rant on, but I do think that if they get what they want, it's not going to even suit them, because at some point, the SS are going to come after them. At some point, the Whisper networks are going to turn on them because they don't have any moral fiber and they don't have any real right and wrong mandate. They're making up morality based on the way they feel, or out of jealousy to try to shut somebody down so they can get work. It's crazy. So go ahead, Joe.
Zero made a good point. When you were saying that they draw first blood, and then when people respond, then they try and claim that they're being attacked. And the word cry bully sums it up very nicely, as Blue said in the chat. And this is something that we've talked about for a while. And again, that goes back to Rules for Radicals, where it's encouraged, because it is an extreme leftist handbook, and it's all about how to take power in an arena where you have none. So if you're a far left extremist, this is your blueprint. And in it, one of the things they talk about, or Saul Alinsky, the author, talks about is, not only do you try to isolate your target with social stigmas, by calling them this or that name, accusing them of this or that behavior, but when they then respond, as is their right to do so, especially in the United States of America, where that right to respond is protected by law, then you, as the left-wing extremist, you use their response as an opportunity to accuse them of harassing you, accuse them of bullying you, accuse them of whatever the awful behavior is that you're doing to them, accuse them of doing it. And then
I noticed a lot of that in the Obama campaign, or his 8 years.
Oh, there are direct ties between Obama and his campaign to Saul Alinsky, the guy who wrote Rules for Radicals.
Yeah, so, that's the first time I really noticed it, like from a president,
Yeah, it's no coincidence that you picked up on that, because they did it a lot. So one of the things that I would encourage people to just be ready for, and I'm ready for it. As I mentioned, I don't usually get into Twitter beefs, but this is one with Jay Lee and with Yanzi Lee and her husband Shane Davis. It's beyond just Twitter beef. It's beyond just arguing. This is actual socio-political agenda maneuvering, hard at work, where people are having their livelihoods and their reputations attacked in very specific ways, in very public forums, very purposefully. And so that's where, if I'm going to get involved in anything, it's going to be over something like that, where there's a substantial cost to these things, and there are substantial I'm trying to make this concise. There are substantial things at stake. It's not just two people arguing back and forth, calling each other names.
She said argument, which is who gives a crap about that? Yeah.
There are substantial things at stake here. And that is when I think it's incumbent upon us who really care about whatever sphere of influence we have in life. If substantial things are under attack, it's up to us to stand up and do something about it. It's a Dream Police. That's a nice music reference.
I've been listening to a lot of Cheap Trick lately, so that's like right in my wheelhouse right now. Go ahead.
So I was just gonna say that the for people who like myself, who normally don't get involved with Twitter beefs or Facebook beefs, anything like that, I would just ask that people consider is when they're looking at these conversations happening, is what is being talked about, is it something substantial? Is it something that really impacts people's lives?
Right.
If so, then I would challenge all of us to speak up on behalf of those who have not done anything wrong, have not done anything criminal, have not done anything malicious, those of us who want to create good work, be it writing, drawing, coloring, lettering, editing, whatever it is, to speak out against that sort of malicious and, in my opinion, at best of times, borderline criminal activity. And more frequently, it's crossing the line into criminal activity that is purposeful, not accidental, purposeful. So I would say that, evil flourishes when good people don't point it out, speak out against it, act against it. So whatever our capabilities are, I would just encourage all of us to work within those. If we don't have a huge social media platform, but we do have a voice that we can use, no matter how big or small it is, let's use it. If we have talents, let's use them.
And try to be civil, because
absolutely.
The worst thing is becoming what you hate. That is the worst thing. And that's the hardest thing, because usually most people are wired action reaction. So, and they usually react in kind. So somebody yells at you, you yell back. Somebody pushes you, you push them back. Like, it's usually cause and effect, action reaction kind of thing. And it's usually in kind, but there are people that then escalate it beyond that. But so the thing is, you have to be very, very careful not to use profanity, to not really be rude and crude, to try to make the argument in a concise, not positive, but in as trying to redirect the narrative. Because as soon as you say something that's outlandish or angry or hateful, they're going to use that as like, see, this is what they're about. And that's like one of the biggest problems. I know I shouldn't probably use this as an example, but this is a problem I had with Mike Miller when he said pride is a sin. When he said that, I know it's like, from his point of view, it's his Twitter, but he's also associated with a supposed hate group. So as soon as you put that up, you're giving the people that want to see harm, you're just giving them everything. You're giving them a bunch of fuel to just burn you and hang you out to dry with. And to be honest, what else would they have done with that? You know what I mean? Like you just hand gift wrapped, to your enemies everything that they need to prove their point, at least at that moment in time. So then you have to do a bunch of heavy lifting to try to get back to where you were, and then to try to prove that you're a good guy again. And so the thing is, like, we just can't. This is my plea to Comicsgate. Try to keep it above board, because you don't want them to go, see, look, this is what Comicsgate is. They're hateful. They're a hateful mob. They say angry, hateful things. I always thought, like, the biggest difference between the left and right, like whenever you see political campaigns, like running for any kind of political office, is that you have the left that are always like really calm, and they're very well mannered, and they're very articulate in the way they talk, and they're very like, I'm a good guy. Look at me. I'm civil, and I have a level head on my shoulders. And then usually the left, the right, are the ones that are like, can you believe this bullshit? Like they're always kind of like, they're slightly unhinged, because they're like, what the fuck is going on? Did you just listen to what that guy had to say? You know what I mean? And so then they always look like that guy, like, oh, look, he's kind of loopy. You know what I mean? But I think it is the reply. Like I feel the same way most of the time. Like, I got to pull myself back, because I always feel like, am I taking crazy pills? Can nobody see the emperor's naked? Like what Tom King is doing is so freaking obvious to me. Like, it's so transparent, but like nobody can see it. We have people that are saying like that Joe Biden is a good presidential candidate to run against Donald Trump. everything that you can say against Donald Trump, you can say against Joe Biden. You know what I mean? And Joe Biden is a little bit scarier because there is like actual film of him sniffing kids' hair and
Right.
doing weird, like perverted stuff. And also, just by his own words, he really seems like he's senile. He's older than Reagan was when Reagan left the White House. When I heard that, it scared the crap out of me. I'm not telling you who to vote for because personally, I don't really care. But I'm just saying that this is the same group that says that Donald Trump is horrible and a horrible human being, but then they can prop up this other guy that, to me personally, I don't see him as being any better. I don't see him as being a viable candidate to take this country into, the next 4 years in a better way. I don't see him being that guy.
Yeah, if you look at and for anyone in the chat who's new to Art's channel, we really don't do political shows.
No, and I'm not endorsing it.
Art solo, he doesn't push any political stuff. So I just want to say that as we're discussing this, Art said he's not telling anyone to vote for, and I'm going to say the same thing about myself. I'm not going to tell anyone who to vote for, and I'm not going to push my beliefs on anybody. But I do think that it's helpful if we're looking at objectively the push and the pull between the right and the left in the U.S. right now. If I think back to the election when Hillary and Trump were running against each other, and I've studied psychology for decades, and so some of this stuff that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to talk about some psychological principles, but I'm not going to get into the weeds and all the clinical terms and all of that. But one of the things that is fascinating to me, because I see it reflected now in this whole Tom King, Jay Lee, and then Tom King, Scott Snyder versus Dean Cain, and every left-wing extremist and their brother against Pete Scimetti, and then Tom King against Yanzi Lin and Shane Davis, or however you want to frame it. So one of the parallels I see is that if we look at the Hillary Trump campaigning, and in Trump as he's been in office, one of the things that I've noticed is that the biggest criticism against Trump when he was campaigning and since he's been in office is that and when I say biggest, I'm talking about the one that I most commonly hear, the one I most commonly read, is that he's not presidential, is that he doesn't walk, talk, look, or act like a president. So if the most common criticism against him is something that is essentially the way he communicates, then it doesn't have that the weight of saying, well, look at all of these people in Trump's past where it seems like anytime they caused a public problem for him and his spouse, they somehow mysteriously disappeared or got suicided, the way it was with Hillary Clinton, right?
Right.
And so there's a whole laundry list of things that people were criticizing.
Body count, yeah.
We're criticizing Hillary about, and to be fair, she had a pretty substantive public record in politics that Trump did not have. However, that is also something that left her open to criticism. And so people could criticize a lot of very specific things about Hillary based on her public performance. Whereas with Trump, they tried to criticize a lot of stuff about him, but the thing that was most common, the most common refrain was, he doesn't look or act or talk like a president. Now,
right.
So let's take that and we look at the comic book industry right now. And you have people who, let's say with EVS, who is arguably the loudest CG voice. And
I just want to say, Thunderbuns, Joe, you got my vote.
Oh, you guys in the chat are too kind.
Would you want that kind of burden?
No,
I would not either.
Not at all. The stress would do me in. I've got some health problems, and some of them are tied to stress. And
I
the
heard
stress
what
alone would put me in the ground.
Yeah, well, we don't want that. I heard, I always forget his name, PragerU, Dennis Prager, and they asked him on one of his live streams. He does these Facebook live streams. Was it Fireside Chat or whatever? They're pretty great. And he was asked, like, would you ever think about running for president? And he goes, well, a lot of people ask me that question. He said, I never would, because it forces you, the position forces you to not be truthful. He said, just being a president, you cannot be factual all the time, because there's things that people need to know and there's things that people don't need to know. There are things that would scare the shit out of people, and there are things that inspire people. So he said, I'm just not that kind of person. I'm an honest person. Somebody asked me a direct question, I answer them as honestly as I can. And so he said, if I was the president, I wouldn't be able to do that anymore. So I would have to compromise my nature to be the president. And I was like, holy shit, man. That's badass, dude. And I was like, I think I would fundamentally have the same problem. I wouldn't be able to just go, really, I have to like lie now? Like, these people need to know these things. And it's like, yeah, but the end game is, like with the pandemic, they have to, it's like somebody on one of the YouTube channels said that you have to kind of keep easing people in, like, oh, it's going to be another month. It's going to be another month. Just like the way the airlines, eventually get you to your flight is closed. You know what I mean? They keep announcing, like, they keep putting it back, like, oh, the plane's running a little late. Oh, well, it's been delayed in whatever city. Oh, there's mechanical issues. Oh, well, the flight has been canceled. You know what I mean? Like, they keep easing you into it. So instead of just going, it's been canceled, then everybody goes, what the hell? You kind of ease them into like, oh, okay. I've been warned, And so I do understand that to manage billions of people, that there has to be that type of thing. But I think that also takes a specific type of person that's able to do that. And I did think it was interesting that Prager said what he said. And so just knowing that, that just as a real, like you said, Joe, I think it was, we were off the air, but you said you're, what did you say, that not you're a pragmatist, but you're just like a realist. Like you try to see things as what they really are. Yeah. And I think you're the same way. I don't see the president as being necessarily good or bad, because I know the reality is that it's a job, and that they're going to have to make decisions, and they're going to have to make some tough decisions. So what I look at is one, I look for somebody, when I vote, I look for somebody that is able to argue or at least defend our interests in the world. You know what I mean? Like, he can go into China and that he can say, this is America's point of view on this, and this is how we want to trade, or this is how we want X, Y, Z to go, and argue it in an honest way that benefits our country first and foremost. Because I'm sorry, I know there's people like, it's one world, it's one this, that, or the other thing, but I don't agree with everything that happens in the rest of the world. So I'm not going to fight and defend China's rights to do whatever they do. I'll fight and die to defend our rights. You know what I mean? So my loyalty is this country, and I want a president that feels the same way. I don't want any of this one world bullshit crap. I don't want, like, I'm sorry, you guys, I'm getting very, very political, and I don't mean to, but it's like when Obama was saying, like he basically, like, if you read his book and stuff like that, what he wanted to do, and maybe it's the Marxist stuff that you were talking about, Joe, as well, is for the world to flourish, the powers that be have to be diminished. It's like there are some people that believe there's only one pie and there's only so many slices to go around. And so to have other people advance in their lives, you have to take away from the most powerful one to give that slice to that other person. I don't agree with that. I say make another pie. That's my philosophy, and it's a sound one. You can make another pie. You just have to be a little bit more clever, and you have to work a little harder to do that. So I don't agree with that philosophy. And I don't want a president to go out and to preach that to the rest of the world. So I think that we need. That's what I look for. I look for a president that's going to argue and stand up for our country, and I need a person that that can take care of business, in the here and now. And I do like presidents that say smaller governments, that argue for smaller governments. And I think that, like Ronald Reagan, even though like his oh my gosh, I'm being so political here. Even though in his time, as president, the deficit went up. But the deficit went up. What people don't realize is there was a Cold War, man. There was a war that was being fought, and to stop World War III or complete annihilation, what it became an economic battle. It was like a battle to see who's going to fold, whose economy was going to fold first. And people don't realize that. They think it was about bombs and shit like that and nuclear proliferation. And that it was about showing like dick size, but it in one way it was, but it really was economically. And so we broke them economically. We brought them to their knees and showed that America was superior. And that's the reason it went up. But as far as government, as far as building government, the way that it does usually under, a democratic, because they kind of believe in more social projects and things like that. Usually budgets go up that way. And then there are people that argue, oh, well, it's better to give back to the people than give to the war machine. Well, you still have to defend yourself. There are genuinely threats. There are people that would love to come in here and just overthrow us and take everything that's here. You can't be naive with that. That does exist. So there is a need to defend your country and to spend money that way. And I do think that people do need to be taken care of. But to me, I think it's opportunity. I don't want handouts from my government. I don't want my government to take care of my personal problems. I want my government to stay out of the majority of my business. What I want the government to do is to get out of the way and let commerce and let business and let what we built and what our ancestors built actually flourish, and actually for people not to get in the way of these things. And so that, people can create jobs, they can employ people, and we can get back to work, and that we can build opportunities for ourselves and for our country. And I don't see that a lot lately. And just to bring it back to comic books, I do think I'm seeing less of that too. I'm seeing less of like, if you talk about the dollar bill or you talk about trying to make money and be successful, there are people that say like, well, monetary gain, stuff like that is the devil. It's not something to pursue. But I say that it's not evil. It's not evil to actually want to feed your family. It's not evil to try to take care of yourself. And that's the way we do it. Was it evil for the caveman to go out and hunt? There are some people that would say, yeah, killing is a crime. You shouldn't eat meat. But it's how you take care of your family. You make money and you bring that into your household, and you pay your mortgage and you feed your family and you pay your bills. And so anybody that's going to get in the way of that, I'm against. So how's that for bringing everything back around to having nothing to say? I had a shit ton of stuff to say.
Well,
before you chime in, Joe,
go ahead.
Read this, and then we'll come back. Super sticker, thank you so much for $1.49. I do appreciate it, Alfred McKay. Thank you so very much. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, more pie is always welcome, Alfred McKay. Thank you. People might not have seen it on the screen, but he sent a super sticker of a slice of pie, so that was very kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and back to using your pie analogy, and it's okay. You said some some very good stuff there, and you were bringing it back to where I was gonna try and bring it anyway, which was back into comics, because if you've got this comparison that I set up with Hillary and Trump when they were campaigning, right? And then in the and full disclosure, I was not a fan of Trump. You know, I was not excited about his candidacy.
I wasn't either. Yeah.
I had no, you know, I was not looking forward to that election for a lot of different reasons. So, you know, you won't find pictures of me online in a MAGA hat and going to Trump rallies and all of that. So all my commentary is from, you know, an objective distance from the whole thing. And that's an excellent comment, Leodora, and I agree.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say, but you summed it up way better than I did. Yes.
So if we then look at his time in office so far, and there's all endless criticism about Trump, but the one that as I mentioned before, the one I hear the most is that he doesn't look or talk or act presidential, right?
Yeah, whatever that means. Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, it's so nebulous and open to interpretation that anyone hearing that can just apply their own confirmation bias in whatever form it might happen to take. So, but if we look at comics, look at somebody like EVS, where he receives a lot of criticism. He has for a long time now, and the most common one that I hear is that he doesn't look or act or talk the way that his critics want him to look or act or talk.
Right.
Very rarely do I come across any criticism about his comic book work. And when I have come across it, I looked into it because it was so rare. And the people came across to me as disingenuous in their criticism because they could not give specific reasons why they disliked his comic book work. They just gave these general platitudes, which seemed to indicate that they were more interested in criticizing him to be seen criticizing him. In other words, they were virtue signaling.
Virtue signaling, yeah.
As opposed to giving an honest critique of his work on the page. So it's interesting to me that you have that dynamic there, which is very similar to Trump. And then you have the people, quote unquote, on the other side of EVS, whether they're in the mainstream industry or indies or, you know, wherever they happen to be. And I keep hearing the same refrain about they don't like what he's doing in terms of his communication, how he communicates with people, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on YouTube. They don't like the way he communicates.
Right.
And my answer to that is, okay, well, we all have our own tastes and likes and dislikes, and it's your prerogative to like or not like or be totally disinterested in how EVS communicates. But if you want to be taken seriously, then what is it substantively about his work that you don't like? And if you can't give me an honest critique on that, then what are we doing? What are we talking about? Isn't it really just a waste of time? And so that's why I when I was talking about the whole Twitter thing with Jay Lee and how now different people are getting pulled into it. And I had mentioned Yanzi Lin, Shane Davis's wife, and how she has been very capably, I might add, interacting with people on Twitter and just very factually stating the weakness in their arguments, using logic and reason to point out that when they're going after Jay Lee, when they're going after her, when they're going after Pete Samedi, when they're going after Dean Cain, she's giving example after example after example of how they're not attacking these fine, upstanding Asian people for anything substantive that you can look at and say, oh, okay, I can understand why you've got a problem with that person. It's all of this, well, you've got the stink on you because you did a cover with that person and that person associates with these people I don't like. And so
Right.
the stink has to go from them to that person you associate with to you.
Right.
It's so ridiculous. And I would say it was silly if there weren't reputations and livelihoods being threatened over this.
Right. It's grade school. And as long as people just want to call each other names and stuff like that, whatever, I don't care. But yeah, I'm like you. When it gets serious and you're starting to mess with somebody's livelihood and their lives, Jay Lee has an entire lifetime dedicated to his craft. You cancel that guy, what the fuck is he going to do? Where's he going to go? How's he going to, feed himself? How's he going to feed his loved ones? It's really, really ridiculous. And I don't know where this is going to go, you guys, but I just got a private tweet from Chris Browley, and he's talking about the Whisper Network Part 2 being dropped soon. Did you get that in the Pontificators chat, Joe?
I'm about to check right now.
He sent me one privately too, so I sent him a link in the private chat. So we'll see if he wants to come in. So I'm not sure when it's going to drop, but you guys, it's Bleeding Fool, and it's Chris Browley. And if you don't know, a few weeks ago he dropped an article. Where was it? Penny? I don't remember her last name.
Yeah, Penny Parker.
Yeah, she was on the inside of this Whisper Network, the female Whisper Network with Gail Simone and Remphamis and these people, and she actually got some real information, some real factual information, and they put it together in the form of an article, and they posted it up on Bleeding Fool, and so people have been waiting for the second part. So Chris has said that their second part is coming. If indeed he does bop in here, I'm going to have to take a pee break and get something to eat, because this is turning into for having nothing to say, this is turning into a freaking epic.
You cracked me up with that title, man.
At first I was thinking like it was just like sarcasm or being facetious, but then I did realize that I had that Tom King thing chambered. And then as soon as I saw you in the chat and I saw Patrick, I was like, oh no, I think this thing has the potential to get epic. So I'm going to give it a few more minutes and see if we can get Chris in here. If not, you guys keep an eye out on Bleeding Fool, not Bleeding Cool, but Bleeding Fool. And it should be dropping soon. So we may be doing an impromptu Pontificators soon as well. So we may actually want to shut down and get a breather just in case we're going to do a Pontificators. And I'll send something in the chat. And because Chris doesn't say when, right?
No, he didn't send it to the private group chat, but he did contact me over the weekend, or maybe that one was to the group chat.
Oh, okay.
He let us know that it was in process, or it was in progress again, and he was going through the article, and we were going to get it soon. So I think the one that you just got, I think, was just to you.
Okay. Yeah, he doesn't really give a time. Lots of material. This one should be broken into 2 parts, but I'm going to see what I can do. Give me some time, just letting you know. So it's kind of, I was thinking since this just dropped that he was giving me a heads up that it's going to be today, but just you guys just keep checking out. If you haven't subscribed to Bleeding Fool, do support that. I not subscribe, it's a site, but I don't know, do they have subscriptions on the site? Do you know, on Bleeding Fool? Because I have subs on my website.
I haven't noticed. Whenever I've gone there, I just entered in the address because it's so easy for me to remember. I follow Bleeding Fool on Twitter, but the site itself, I'm not sure. We can pull it up if you want.
Yeah. Because I have subs in the form of like for mailing list.
Right.
So I can contact people when things are coming out. But I think he made a joke, right, when he was on one of the pontificators. He's like, you guys can send me support through my PayPal or donate or whatever. And then he just made a joke. He's like, I don't have one. I think he should. He does a hell of a lot of work and does a lot in return. So anyways, you guys can support Bleeding Fool, please do.
Well, he actually does have a donate button at the bottom of the homepage, but I don't see a way to subscribe necessarily.
Okay, well that's good. Yeah, go donate something to Chris. Tell him Art and Joe sent you, Pontificators sent you, and give him a little bit of love because he does put a lot of time and effort. He has a day job and he does a lot of the stuff on the side. So he's doing it because he just feels just like we are the last hour or so, last couple hours, actually just trying to kind of clear the air and give everybody a different point of view on stuff. And like I said, I just want to be clear, you guys. I want to be clear. These are just opinions. These are just opinions, you guys. Joe and I are just talking. We're not saying go do anything. We're not saying, who to vote for or who to defund or what platform to go attack. We're not saying any of those things, you guys. We're just trying to give some kind of rebuttal to the SJWs, the Whisper networks, stuff like that. I just want some kind of balance, you guys. I just want another voice out there that is saying things, and then people can formulate their own opinions. Ultimately, I don't want to be, what do they call those on the internet, Joe?
Talking head?
What's that?
A talking head?
A talking head? No, where they go like, I want to be and then they get people to sponsor them.
An influencer.
Influencer, yeah. Like I didn't set out to go like, I want to be an influencer. And when I see people like they're actively, you usually see younger people, it's like, I'm an influencer, and I'm just like, you're a douchebag. Like, that's what I think instantly. Like, you know what it is? An influencer is like, basically I guess it is like the derogatory term is talking head. Is that true? Is that what they call
that? That came over from the politics shows where you'd have, like on Sunday morning, you have this whole block of shows where they all just talk about stuff, and it's usually a lot of people talking as if they're experts, but they're talking just to talk. Whereas with the pontificators every week, we make no bones about the fact that we don't consider ourselves experts of anything. We're just talking because we think that people in the chat have interesting stuff to say. We like to hear it. We go back and forth amongst ourselves on the panel, and we just have a good time having a discussion. It's talking with people, not talking at people.
Man, what is this, man, bear, pig? Art is influencing me right now. No, trust me. Like that's not the end game. I mean, I would like you, if you like me, go, back a book. But I'm creating the book. It's not like the influencers are like, they're like, oh, somebody paid me to talk about this lipstick. You know what I mean? And then they'll try to influence you to buy lipstick, or they get sponsorships, or they get like different things. And the problem with that is like, there's already conflict of interest. Like somebody's paying you to say this, so you're a spokesperson, and they try to make it sound more important. I'm an influencer. Then you're a spokesperson, because they realized if you say spokesperson, that has an old world connotation, which is negative. Like you're trying to sell somebody something. And so they're trying to change the language. They're doing exactly the same thing, but they're trying to change the language to make themselves sound like there's something more important than they are. I'm an influencer. When somebody says influencer, I think that's worse than spokesperson, because at least I go, a spokesperson is being paid. Like, I understand what that is. When you say an influencer, like you're actually trying to fundamentally you're trying to change somebody's point of view. You're trying to change, you know what I mean? Like, you're on the surface, you're saying, I want to change your point of view. Right. I want to make you think this. I think that's like, when I said douchebag, that's instantly what I think. I think, like, you're a douchebag.
Did you see that it was a brief scandal and then it was hushed up pretty quickly last year with YouTube, where you know, there's a difference between the people with a channel who have ads that run on the channel, and the operator of the channel has nothing to do with what is displayed.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing my ass
I saw that. He was quite an effective influencer.
Yeah, he was pretty good at his job.
Smiling Bandito unfortunately only has influenza, so he's
okay.
not much influence to speak of.
I'm sorry, Smiling Bandito. I would have laughed my ass off if Spirits Car didn't break me first, because that's an equally funny line.
So what I was saying is that, you know, on YouTube, you've got the ads that run where the channel operator has nothing to do with what ads are shown. Okay.
Right.
Then you have the channel operator who gets sponsorships that are, that they make you aware of. Okay. This is an important distinction. You'll get the video game channel where the guy says, hey guys, you know, ABC video game company is sponsoring me to let you know about game XYZ. And then they do the ad for it.
That's fine.
I've got no problem with that.
I don't either, because you're telling them exactly what you're doing. Yeah.
Transparency.
Right.
And where the scandal came up was last year, and I wish I could remember when exactly. But it escapes me at the moment. But there was this I guess revelation, you could call it, of a bunch of really big channels and the quote unquote influencers. They were being paid to use products specifically in front of their audience and to talk them up, like, oh, this new lipstick I bought is so fantastic, blah, 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 blah. And then they tell you the name of it and they say, you should go out and buy this lipstick, blah, 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 without ever revealing that they're being paid to shill this stuff.
Right.
And so the reason why it was a problem is because YouTube, despite their claims to the contrary, they're both a publisher of content, but also a public platform. And there are rules with the Federal Trade Commission about truth in advertising. And if you're going to advertise something, regardless of whether or not you call it an ad, you have to be clear about what it is you're doing. And if you're trying to deceive people into buying stuff by withholding the information that you are being paid to say this stuff,
right,
a company that's selling a product, that's a big no-no with the FTC.
And I noticed that even like infomercials are trying to shift things around, but they're definitely walking that fine line, you know, with stuff. But they still are there, and they do have to adhere by those laws, though, right? Like if it's like an infomercial, they have a lot more now on YouTube as well, where there's like I'm a doctor and I created this new diet and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, the reason I know it works is because I was the first test patient or whatever kind of stuff. Those guys can get away with that, right? I mean, that's not breaking any laws, even though they're saying that they're using the product.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I will start endorsing my own brand of lipstick. For sure.
And our buddy Mike Bancroft in the chat is saying a much bigger problem is op-eds being presented as straight news. And that's another one that to me, it's another symptom of corrupt government and corrupt mega corporations being in bed together when you've got so-called news organizations that are clearly presenting opinion pieces, but they're calling it as news, and they're allowed to get away with it.
Right. Because YouTube doesn't have the same regulations, right?
Well, and even that's true that they don't, but even in traditional television outlets and cable outlets, they're supposed to have there are supposed to be laws that separate news from opinion.
Right.
And they get around that by not referring to these shows as news shows. And when called on it, they'll say, well, it's an opinion show. And yet everything about the presentation is supposed to give you the idea that this is news that you're being fed.
But if you look at even like supposed legit news, man, you talk about blurring the line between fact and opinion. Holy shit. In the old days, integrity out the window. Those people would be sued and shut down in a heartbeat. And do you remember this, Joe? I used to love it, especially local. God, what was his name? I forget the guy, like Channel 5 or something like that. You would look forward to opinion pieces because the news would always be like straightforward, right? So the news would be, here's the facts, so you're always like, well, it's kind of boring, but I need to know the facts, right? And then there would be some commentator would go in and you go, this is opinion piece. And they would be right up front with it. And they would go this. And I still remember when it was on Channel 5 and he took a shot at the same station that aired the show. Okay. And it was Conan the Barbarian. I still remember to this day, like the hypocrisy. And he called his own network out on that actual news outlet.
That's rare.
And he said, God, I wish I could remember this guy's name because I know you'd know his name if I came up with it. And he was like saying, censorship. He was talking about censorship. He said, okay, so there was a lot of complaints about this aspect to airing the movie, right? Yeah. So do you remember the scene in Conan, the first one with Arnold, where there was like a witch or something and she shows her breasts, right? Yeah. It's like, it's so minute and it's in the shadows and it's nothing that's going to turn you on. Like it's like it's the context is just, it's grotesque, right? And so then he goes, the network, actually, it wasn't against the network, actually, now that I think about it. It seemingly was. But then he goes, we here got tons of hate mail and letters that are saying, how dare you put this out there? Mm-hmm. You put a bare woman's breasts on network television. My kids saw it. Oh my gosh. Everybody just losing their crap over this thing, right? And so this was the funny aspect because we used to deal with this stuff with humor, which we need to bring back, by the way. Mm-hmm. Is he goes, okay, let me get this straight. So you guys had a problem with this, and he showed it again, but I think he had the black bars over it, but everybody knew what it was, right? You had a problem with this, but you didn't have a problem with this. And shows Arnold lopping some guy's head off. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, so your kids, you were okay with them seeing this level of violence, right? But you had a problem with bare breasts, which, by the way, is just a body part. It's an elbow, a shoulder, a nose. It's just a body part. And I thought, like, oh my gosh, this guy was so right on. And like by today's standards, this guy would have been like drawn and quartered, and he would have been brought out and tarred and feathered, and he would have been hung out to dry. Like, it's just so crazy. Like today, you just, because I thought he was kind of cool at the time for even bringing it up. But in this day and age, like, I would look at him as like a hero because nobody really says things like that are just like common sense and practicality. Like he wasn't saying one was right or one was wrong. He just said that you had a problem with this. He didn't definitively go, you're right for feeling, or you're wrong for feeling this, whatever. But he just said, this is kind of a weird juxtaposition. Like, you had a problem with this, but not this. Mm-hmm. And I think that we need more of that, just like common sense stuff. Like, let's figure out what we're really getting upset about. Like, is this really like something to get up in arms about when there's so much other stuff, like somebody getting their heads lopped off, that are more, gratuitous and more outrageous, yeah, we just need to tone it back a bit.
Yeah, well, I think that when intellectual honesty is valued a lot less than fake outrage, we find ourselves in the position that we're in as a society, whether that's the US or Australia or Venezuela. I mean, pick a country.
Yeah.
If we don't value intellectual honesty and just being truthful with ourselves as we're trying to rationally think about things, and then being intellectually honest with each other as we're discussing these things, if we don't have that, then what hope is there of building not only a stable society, but inheriting a stable society and then keeping it that way?
Yeah. Case in point, my daughter came up. She was really young, and she was lying. It was obviously she was lying, right? But it was problem. I forget what it was, but there was a problem there. And I said, we need to be honest. I said, because if we're not honest, how can I deal with your problem? If you're not giving me the facts and you're misleading me, I said, because what I will eventually have to do is I will have to trust you that you're telling me the truth. And then I will start trying to fix these other problems that you made up. I'll go at those. I won't fix the real problems. And so I said, so you want to rethink it? I said, what really is going on? And so then she told me, I said, well, now we can deal with the real problem. We can deal with the real problem. Those other things were made up. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing more people fundamentally just making things up, mm-hmm. and saying that they're problematic or they're problems, when they really aren't. The fundamental truths are always the things that should sustain us. And especially like if we're still talking about the news outlets, that the news outlets should at least have an illusion. They used to have an illusion of fair play. Like we always knew that they were owned by, like rich people, like that had an agenda, like newspapers and TV news, and has always been owned by some big wig or some conglomerate or some kind of corporation or something like that. But now, at least it seemed like there were reporters that had integrity. And then it just, now I listen to anything, even a car chase, Joe, and there's opinion like, oh, well, she must be this or he must be that or what. No, that's not your fucking job. Your job is not to like speculate on what they're thinking or what they're doing. Your opinion means nothing. Mm-hmm. You're there to report facts and only facts. And if you're going to go into that, then you clearly have to separate that segment from another segment, or you go into a segment that says, this is what we think may be happening, but make there a clear division between what the facts are and what you're speculating is going on.
There's a moment in American broadcast news history where it was telegraphed to the country that broadcast news had moved away from objective reporting of facts and gone into opinion journalism. Do you know what it was?
Well, there was a movie called Broadcast News, and that was kind of designed to show you the corruption and the stuff that's going on, and in the most. Well, go ahead. I don't know where you're going.
Okay, so I'm just curious how far back in your own memory you would go to point and say, this is about the time where I think people started noticing that something was up, and it was no longer objective news reporting, but it was editorializing. It was opinion in the disguise of.
Well, the only place I go there where it seemed like people were duped and that is the War of the Worlds broadcast where people you thought that was fact and thought that was truth, and actually kind of reacted on it. But what was yours?
In my opinion, it was Walter Cronkite's coverage of the Vietnam War.
Oh, here you go. Yeah.
Because, go ahead. Yeah. So what happened is that it was the first time where reporters were allowed to be embedded with frontline troops as a formal program within the U.S. military. And it was also the first time where footage was broadcast either live or so close to live that it might as well have been.
Right.
Satellites were used for beaming footage and whatnot.
And people got to see actually what was going on and were disgusted.
As opposed to seeing sanitized pictures like in World War II and World War I.
Right.
World War II, you go to the movie theater, you'd have a weekly serial like newsreels and whatnot, and so they would get a sanitized version of what was happening over on the European front or out in the South Pacific, whatever it was during World War II. In Vietnam, they got a much more open view into what was happening over there, and it was much uglier as a result.
Right.
Well, Walter Cronkite started out reporting objective fact, and throughout the course of the conflict, he started inserting more and more of his opinion or someone's opinion that he was being told to say. And then there's a moment, it's a famous moment in Vietnam War history where Cronkite basically takes off his glasses and puts them down on the desk and says, "America has just lost the conflict in Vietnam," or something to that effect. And not only was that his opinion or someone's opinion being broadcast as straight news reporting, which it was not, but history has shown that when you go back and you look at the military objectives, what was accomplished, what was not, and there's a lot that was done wrong in Vietnam.
Right.
Far be it from me to claim otherwise. There was a lot that was done wrong from a lot of different perspectives. There's a lot of different standards of measurement you could point at and say, this was wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. However, when you look at what the military was defining as, for them, what would be success, militarily speaking, America was winning. But it was governmentally, the American government and the push and pull between the U.S. government and the U.S. military, where there were so many problems that were developing, and they were developing faster and faster and more severely as the U.S. Congress was pulling away from what the presidents had tried to do with Vietnam. And again, there was strife within the citizenry, so it was definitely an ugly time. But when Cronkite, and Ted Lehman in the chat is also saying that Cronkite called the assassination right wing, and I'm guessing, Ted, you're referring to the JFK assassination. So yeah, I mean, there were moments like, for example, the reporting on World War II. You know, there were some left-wing news organizations that were controlled. Well, I say left-wing. I should say they were controlled by left-wing people in authority. And I'm not talking about classical liberals. I'm not talking about your normal garden variety, you know, mom or dad that has classically liberal views. I'm talking about, you know, what we would now consider left-wing extremists. And they were in the news organizations even as far back as World War II, because the infiltration actually goes back to the late 19th century, but that's neither here nor there. They were in place by the time World War II happened. That's the point. And one of the biggest lies told about World War II is when the people of the Allied countries were told that the German bad guys that like to wear the big black crosses and the funny armbands on their arms, when they were told that they were right wing, National Socialism, they were an extreme left wing group that implemented certain extreme right wing fascistic tendencies.
Right.
That Mr. Funny Mustache Man learned from Benito Mussolini. And he was a great admirer of Mussolini. And so he implemented certain elements of Mussolini's extreme right programs into his National Socialism. But it was far left. And the American people were told over and over and over that these are right-wing government.
Right. So
they were right-wing Germans, I'll call them. And so it was one of the biggest lies perpetuated about World War II, and it stuck all the way now to present day. There are still people who will tell you that the German bad guys from World War II were right-wing. It's why we get called Nazis. Go punch a Nazi. Go punch a right-winger. It's absurd, but it's stuck.
Well, there was also historically speaking, we should try to wrap this up though, because this is fun. But we could probably go all day. Is the slavery and that basically the party that freed slavery was the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. And that, if this is getting, oh my gosh, if I keep going, it's going to get into, try not to comment too much on this, is that they say if Abraham Lincoln wasn't assassinated, he had a plan on how to bring what were the slaves after their freedom and how to assimilate them into society. So there was a plan to do this, and that there is some conspiracy stuff in there, but that basically the other party did everything to discredit that and to stop that. So that stuff never happened, and then somehow over time, I know I'm overly simplifying this because I want to move on. But is that somehow the party that were responsible for freeing the slaves then became the oppressive party. They became the ones that, are like present day. They're, they hate freedom. They're in favor of all the nonsense that they say. I mean, basically it's come to a head with the Trump administration. All the, that he's racist, he's a homophobe, he's all these ists and phobe things. But like a lot of the, the transformation, I'm just trying to add on to what you're saying with the Republican Democrat thing, is there's been the smear campaign started even before, Cronkite. I mean, there's as far as Republican Democrats. And the thing is, if you look at historically speaking, and I'm not taking a side, you guys, this is just me talking, is that the Republican side has done less as far as smearing the other side. Like the Democratic side has done more to try to discredit the Republican side. It's almost like a Comicsgate thing versus, SJWs, where it seems like one is more a response to the other versus actually pushing an agenda forward as far as trying to discredit. I mean, you do see stuff like that more now with the Trump administration than you probably have before. But I think that oh my gosh, I could go on and on.
Well, I mean, the bad
Trying to
thing,
figure out a way to get out of this in a concise way, but
the
I'm
bad
having
thing is that both sides, when you talk about people in power, both sides have corruption, and they always have, going all the way back to the founding of the country. I mean, I've studied it, and you know, it's more or less a miracle in my mind that the United States was founded the way that it was, and that the good idealistic parts of that founding lasted for as long as they did. They were never perfect. Never. Not from the beginning, not
right.
during the signing of the Constitution or the ratification of the Bill of Rights. Nothing was perfect. It never has been.
Because we're humans.
Yeah, because humans were involved. And as long as flawed people are involved, there will always be problems.
Right.
But what I will say is that in the era that we live in today, it's easier to both send a lie around the world. There's that old adage that a lie travels around the world before the truth has time to put its pants on.
Yeah.
So it's easier to get lies out there, but it's also easier for people to find the truth on their own if they're willing to put the time and effort into it.
Right.
So I would, if it's okay with you, Art, I would say let's tie a bow on this one by saying, yeah, there's a lot of problems, and tying it back to comics as well. Yeah, it's terrible that people like Jay Lee and others who have come before and after him, there will be more after Jay.
Yes.
Who they try, you know, the extremists try to cancel people instead of trying to deal with them in an honest and authentic way, one-on-one.
Right.
Right. Because the problem isn't really with individuals. Their problem is with the quote unquote side that they are trying to attack because in their mind they're justified for doing so.
Right.
But as long as we continue to build platforms for ourselves that we can interact with each other in an honest and authentic way, and as long as we protect those platforms and don't allow them to be invaded and swarmed and destroyed, then we'll still be able to do the kind of really great creative work, the honest work that we want to produce and that people want to buy. And we can continue to grow this fantastic thing that we've together we've created within CG. We can continue to grow that even with all of the garbage going on.
Yeah.
But we absolutely have to be, we have to have our heads on swivels. We have to be watching for those attacks coming in, and we have to do our best to try to circumvent them when possible. And if we're not able to circumvent them, then I think and again, this is only my opinion, but I think we're all best served if we can help each other to recover from them.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, I fully expect Shane Davis to get his DC work. You know, that's going to dry up, in my opinion. It's not something I would ever wish for, but I'm just looking at history. I'm just reading the history that's unfolded before us the last few years.
Right.
So my part in that is I got on his mailing list for Starlight Cats. I'm going to be backing the book. I'm not even a cat person, but I'm going to.
The artwork's going to be gorgeous because it's Shane Davis.
It's going to be gorgeous because it's Shane, and his wife Yanzi is an inker.
Yeah,
and they're working on it together, and so they've both come under attack. I want to support both of them. Backing that book is a way that I can do that. And you know what? If I can't afford to back all the projects, because I can't, then the ones that I have to pass on because I simply don't have the funds, I talk about them. I promote them. I try to get other people, their eyes on them. Maybe they can back them.
Definitely. Yeah. And I just want to say too that there is propaganda on both sides. and extremists are extremists. So you have them on both sides. The truth is usually somewhere in the middle. And I do believe that there needs to be 2 sides, 3 sides, many opinions, and that if you have fair-minded people, they can listen to the different opinions and they can figure out what's the best approach, what's the best way to deal with something. When people cancel the other one, there's no chance of anything being, any dialogue being exchanged, any points of view, any of those things happening. So we need to get back to some kind of sanity where we listen to each other, and that if something doesn't hold, if it's not a truth, and if it doesn't work for the greater good, then it gets discounted, and then we move on to the next thing. At least that's something we should aspire to and we should work towards. I don't see that happening right now. I see people just trying to shut each other down and shut them up and cancel them. And that's genuinely where I stand. And once again, I'm going to be saying this a lot more. This is my opinion, you guys. Yep. If you agree with it, fine. If you disagree with it, fine as well. Because I'm not trying to change your mind or anything. I'm just trying to get some kind of sense of normalcy, a world that I used to understand. And I'm not saying this because I'm old. There's younger people that feel the same way. I used to understand and I used to know when comedians can't, say something or make a joke, hold a mirror up to the lunacy that's happening, and then somebody's feelings get hurt and they try to cancel them. This is dangerous. This is dangerous for humanity. If we can't do these things, then we truly are doomed. So yes. So you guys, thank you so much for showing up in the chat. And for somebody who had nothing to say, I sure did have a lot to say. I want to thank Patrick for coming on early, an hour or so ago. I want to thank Joe for having his insight. He's always a great rock. He usually is very knowledgeable about these things, and he helps fill the gaps in our our lack of understanding, either in the chat or something that I've said. So I do appreciate that. He's what is that? What is that? That character that knew everything that you go to. He was a cartoon character, Mr. Know-All or whatever. I forget what that character was called. It's an old reference. God, it was something like Mr. Know-All or something. And was it an owl and they went to and they would ask advice from? God, what was that stupid character called? Yeah, I don't remember what it was. But anyways, yeah, thanks to the chat. Thanks for helping out. And thanks for the super chat and the super stickers. I do appreciate it. And the Whisper Networks Part 2 is going to drop soon. I just read a message from Chris. So he's not giving me an exact time, probably because he wants the exclusive. But we are probably going to go live pretty soon with the Pontificators, and we'll go over all that and let you know all about the new goings on there with the Whisper Network. So thanks again, you guys. Go back, Chrono Mechanics. It's a great book. We are going to be fulfilling that very soon. Black and White is being fulfilled as we speak. So thanks for all the support. Take care, you guys. Have a terrific day, and be